Chapter 223. Prime Martial Artist. Feng Kai never thought that Ghost King Ao Tian would be a prime martial artist. Everyone knew that Ghost King Ao Tian was a venerable. Not only that, but the master of the 6 great sects were all venerables. But now, a prime martial artist. Ghost King Ao Tian was very strong. He did not give Feng Kai any chance. He slapped Feng Kai's head. Without any resistance, the Ghost King laughed sinisterly. He glanced at Zhang Zhihong and muttered to himself, "Consider yourself unlucky." Longao did not know that Zhang Zhihong was killed. Scarlet Fire Town, Long Family Main Hall. "Big Brother Dugu, Brother Xia, are you here for something?" Looking at the two who wanted to speak but stopped, Longao was very confused. It had only been 5 days since they parted in Thundercloud City. Could it be that the two of them missed him again? Xia Jun sighed deeply and said in an extremely serious voice, "Brother Long, I will ask you a question now. You have to answer me honestly." Seeing Xia Jun so serious, Longao became even more curious. He nodded and said, "Ask away." "Brother Long, 5 days ago, after you defeated Zhang Zhihong, did you chase after him?" Shaking his head, Longao asked. "Brother Xia, why do you ask?" Longao's intuition told him that something big must have happened when Xia Jun asked this question. Could it be that something happened to Zhang Zhihong? If that was the case, then it would be very troublesome. After all, Zhang Zhihong was the young master of the Golden Sun sect. If something happened to him, the Golden Sun sect would definitely not let it go. "Brother Long, I believe you have guessed it." His heart skipped a beat. Longao still asked with uncertainty, "Did something really happen to Zhang Zhihong?" Xia Jun nodded and said, "Since Zhang Zhihong left Thundercloud City, he never returned. After 2 days, we finally found his corpse in a barren mountain. There was also Feng Kai's corpse." Feng Kai, an elder of the Golden Sun sect, a Dao ancestor. Longao knew that to be able to kill a Dao ancestor without anyone noticing, and that elder Feng did not even have a chance to escape, this already showed how strong this person was. Void warriors. "Brother Xia, I can tell you clearly that I did not kill Zhang Zhihong. If I wanted to kill him, he would not even be able to walk out of Thundercloud City." Xia Jun nodded and said, "Of course I believe you, but the Gold Sun sect will definitely not believe you. Brother Long, if nothing unexpected happens, the Gold Sun sect will definitely blame you for this." How could Longao not know what Xia Jun was worried about? Now, it didn't matter who killed Zhang Zhihong. The most important thing was that this person had ulterior motives. It was obvious that this person wanted to frame him. Who could it be? "Brother Long, it seems that the person who killed Zhang Zhihong wants to kill you." Dugu Bai's expression was also very solemn. He knew very well how terrifying the strength of an expert who could kill a Dao ancestor martial artist was. Void Realm martial artists generally did not participate in worldly battles, but who was it that wanted to deal with Brother Long? Dugu Bai and Xia Jun couldn't figure it out. If the other party could kill Kai Feng so easily, why didn't he deal with Longao himself? Why did he choose to frame him? "Brother Dugu, Brother Xia, what's the attitude of the Gold Sun sect? I can't figure it out. Since Zhang Zhihong's body was transported back, the Gold Sun sect acted as if nothing had happened. But Brother Long, I can tell you for sure that the Gold Sun sect will not give up. Brother Long, you don't know. Zhang Mo only had one son, so he loved him very much. Now that Zhang Zhihong is dead, I believe that Zhang Mo will definitely come to you to settle accounts." Longao nodded. He was also sure about this, but he was not sure about the time. "What does the Gold Sun sect mean? Brother Dugu, Brother Long, do you think that the reason why Zhang Mo didn't take action is because of the 9 States Battle of the 9 States? The 9 States Battle of the 9 States was held once every 10 years. No matter how big the grudges were, the 6 sects would temporarily put aside and join forces to participate in the 9 States Battle of the 9 States. However, Longao shook his head and said, "I always feel that this matter is not that simple. Zhang Mo can't be so calm. He must be scheming something. I agree with Brother Long. Zhang Mo's only son is dead. He can't be so calm. Brother Long, why don't you take your family and leave first? How could Longao not know about Xia Jun's worries? Take the family and leave the Red Fire town? Dugubai waved his hand and said, This is not a long-term solution. Even if Brother Long can hide for a while, you can't hide forever. So we have to find a way to solve this matter. Brother Dugu, what should we do now? There's only one way, which is to go back and find the master. I hope that the sect will intervene. With the deterrence of the sect, I believe that Zhang Mo won't act recklessly. Dugubai was very confident. As long as the sect intervened, the Gold Sun sect would not dare to act recklessly. Xia Jun smiled helplessly and said, Big Brother Dugu, it's not like you don't know Father's temperament. Father won't do anything that doesn't benefit him. Moreover, even if Father agrees to this matter, the sect elders won't agree. Longao understood Xia Jun's helplessness. After all, there was no free lunch in this world. Why should the Sound of Thunder sect help him? Even if the Gold Sun sect was not as strong as the Sound of Thunder sect, the Sound of Thunder sect would not start a war with the Gold Sun sect for an outsider. There was no doubt about this. Dugubai punched the air and said angrily, Brother Long, I won't leave the Red Fire town during this time. I want to see what kind of tricks the Gold Sun sect is playing. Brother Long, before the Wind Cloud Battle of the 9 States starts, Brother Dugu and I won't leave the Red Fire town. Even if the sect doesn't intervene, we will face the Gold Sun sect together with you. It would be a lie to say that he was not moved. However, Longao could not implicate his friends, let alone hurt them. He said with a smile, Brother Dugu, Brother Xia, the Wind Cloud Battle of the 9 States is about to start. You'd better go back and prepare. You don't have to worry about me. I'll take care of it myself. Longao's meaning was clear to Dugubai and Xia Jun, but they had obviously made up their minds. They said in unison, We've made up our minds. Please arrange a residence for us as soon as possible. Since things had come to this point, Longao had no choice but to get up and arrange a residence for them. Brother Dugu, do you think the Gold Sun sect will come? I'm 100% sure. If nothing goes wrong, Zhang Mo will deal with Brother Long before the Wind Cloud Battle of the 9 States starts. If Zhang Mo really wants to deal with Brother Long, I'm afraid we won't be able to resist the attack of the Gold Sun sect with our strength. Brother Dugu, I've already told my father about this. We'll know the sect's decision tonight. Chapter 224. Dugubai and Xia Jun did not leave Chihua town, but stayed in the Long family. Longao was very grateful to Dugubai and Xia Jun. This kind of friend was worth having no matter what. As for Zhang Jiheng's matter, Longao found his grandfather and told him in detail. After listening, Long Haoshe was also very dignified. The Golden Sun sect was like a behemoth in front of them. Ayo, what are you going to do? Grandfather, it's obvious that someone deliberately framed me. But no matter what, the Golden Sun sect will solve this before the 9 States storm battle, so we must find a way to solve it as soon as possible. Long Haoshe nodded and said, You're right. Zhang Jiheng was killed, and Zhang Mo will certainly not delay for too long. In my opinion, the Golden Sun sect will deal with you in less than 10 days. After thinking about it, Long Haoshe continued, Ayo, now there are only 2 ways. First, we withdraw from Chihua town. Second, we confront the Golden Sun sect. Longao did not speak, but listened quietly, because he knew that since his grandfather had said so, he must have thought of a way. Ayo, if the Golden Sun sect attacks the family, how confident are we to resist? Almost none. Yes, as the saying goes, a wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him. We don't need to confront the Golden Sun sect head-on. In the future, when our family becomes stronger, it will not be too late to take revenge. Ayo, what do you think? Choose to avoid? To be honest, Longao was not willing to avoid unless it was a last resort. But he knew very well that not only himself, but the whole family was behind him. No matter what happened, he did not want to hurt the family. Grandfather, how long will it take for all of us to leave? For some reason, Longao always felt that this matter was not so simple. After all, Zhang Zhiheng was dead, Zhang Mo's only son was dead, but Zhang Emo chose to remain silent. Was it normal? This was obviously not normal, so Longao was so nervous. 10 days. 10 days, Longao's heart thumped. There were less than 15 days before the Nine States storm battle. He believed that Zhang Emo would not exceed this time, so 10 days was still too long. Grandfather, we have 3 days at most. Far from enough. How about this? Everyone in the clan can choose to evacuate. As for the loot, it doesn't matter. As long as we are alive, we will definitely rise again in the future. Until now, Longao still couldn't figure out who was trying to frame him and use the power of the Golden Sun sect to deal with him. This was also the most surprising thing for Longao. Feng Kai was a high-level Dao ancestor. Even Dugabai would not be able to kill Feng Kai without anyone noticing. If that was the case, it was easy to guess that the person who killed Feng Kai was a nihility expert. It was precisely because of this that Longao could not figure out. Since this person was so powerful, why did he still borrow the power of the Gold Sun sect? Why didn't he deal with him personally? Unless the Fire Qilin personally made a move, no one in the entire clan would be a match for a Nihility Realm warrior. Longao and Long Haosher discussed for an entire night before coming up with a compromise. That was to reduce the time limit from 10 days to 5 days. Within 5 days, everyone from the Long family would leave Scarlet Fire Town. In the small courtyard, Longao quietly sat on the ground and looked at the stars in the sky. Scenes unceasingly flashed through his mind. It was as if he was acting in a TV show. From the beginning to the end, from the moment he left the Red Fire Town until now, who would want to shift the blame to him? Who could it be? After thinking about it, Longao still could not figure out who wanted to frame him. Could it be the people of the 6 great sects? In the end, Longao could only think of such a result. In the Tianzhou, the 6 great sects were above the secular world. They were the strongest existences in the Tianzhou. If there were Nihility Realm warriors, there was no doubt that there were Nihility Realm warriors in the 6 great sections. If that was the case, the 6 great sects would all be suspicious. In the Golden Sun sect, although Zhang Emo was the master, it was inevitable that he would provoke a strong enemy. Perhaps Zhang Mo's enemy really seized the opportunity to kill Zhang Zhiheng, and did not intend to frame him. The 6 great sects, the Ghost King sect, the Blood Sea sect, the Wind Thunder sect, the Golden Sun sect, the Flame sect, the Sound of Thunder sect. Every sect was a suspect. Who was Martial Uncle? In the Dragon Seal space. Long Fu, if a person has been dead for 8 or 9 days, do you still have a way to seize his soul? Impossible, at most 10 minutes. His last glimmer of hope was shattered. It seemed that it would not be easy to find out who was trying to frame him. Master, you're in trouble? Nodding his head, Longao naturally would not hide anything from Long Fu. He told him everything in detail. After listening, Long Fu silently nodded his head. There was not the slightest expression on his face. Master, are you worried that the Golden Sun sect will come looking for trouble? Yes. Master, I can't do anything about this. I'm sorry, I can't help you. Fuck Longao, who never cursed in a low voice and did not continue to stay. After leaving the Dragon Seal space, Longao did not have the heart to cultivate, but continued to think about the problem. The next day, early in the morning, before Longao could figure out who framed him, Longao anxiously found him and said straightforwardly, Ao, this morning, the Sound of Thunder sect and the Ghost King sect announced to the world at the same time. From now on, the 2 sects will protect Archiva town. With the protection of the 2 sects, I believe that the Golden Sun sect will not dare to mess around. The Sound of Thunder sect and the Ghost King sect? Longao seemed to be a little surprised, but he did not feel surprised. Instead, he became more dignified. He always felt that something was wrong with this matter, and now it was even more wrong. As for what was wrong, he could not tell. Ao, or the Sound of Thunder sect and the Ghost King sect came out to protect us. Are you not happy? Longao was very surprised. He did not know what was wrong with his grandson today. Grandpa, I'm fine. There are just some things that I don't understand. Without continuing to talk to his grandfather, Longao was still hiding in the small courtyard alone, quietly thinking. The Sound of Thunder sect and the Ghost King sect, were they really willing to go to war with the Golden Sun sect for him? Longao was very clear that there was no such thing as a free lunch in the sky. It was possible for the six sects, but he still did not know who it was. Among the people he knew, there did not seem to be such a level of existence. Longao was very upset, because the root of all this was because he did not have the strength. If he was also a supreme warrior now, even if he was framed, what was there to be afraid of? Chapter 225. Everything depended on strength. Our senior Ghost King is here. Ghost King? Longao didn't know why the Ghost King suddenly came. After all, they had been very unhappy before, but Longao still came out to meet him. The reason was very simple. The Ghost King was Aoshua's father. In the small courtyard, on both sides of the stone table, Longao and Ao Tian each took a sip of tea. Ao Tian smiled and asked, Longao, do you hate me? Longao of course knew the meaning of the Ghost King's words. He replied indifferently, It's not about hate or not hate. I know you are dissatisfied with me, but I can only tell you one thing. I have no choice. As the master of the Ghost King sect, I first think of the interests of the sect. Do you understand? Longao didn't agree with the Ghost King's words. I want to ask, if between the sect and Aoshue, which side would you choose? The sect, Ao Tian said directly without even thinking. However, Longao had already guessed it, so he wasn't surprised at all. Either of them spoke again. They were at an impasse. After a long time, Longao finally asked, What business do you have with me this time? Longao of course knew that the Ghost King wouldn't find him for no reason. Could it be because of the Battle of the Nine States, or because of Zhang Zhiheng's death? The Ghost King sect chose to support the Long family. Longao had always been suspicious. He didn't know what the Ghost King was doing, but for Aoshue, he could only choose to remain silent. Longao, the purpose of my visit this time is very simple. I have a general understanding of the matter between you and Zhang Zhiheng. Longao didn't speak. He sat quietly. He wanted to hear what the Ghost King would say next. Longao, I know who killed Zhang Zhiheng. His eyes suddenly lit up. Longao still didn't ask, but he became vigilant. How did the Ghost King know? It had to be known that the martial artist who killed Kaifeng was clearly a nihility martial artist. How did the Ghost King know of such a powerhouse? Ao Tian seemed to be able to guess Longao's thoughts and said, There's no need to doubt, I didn't see it with my own eyes. It was just a senior from the Ghost King sect who saw it by accident. He believed it to a certain extent. Who did it? Elder of the Blood River sect, Calamity of the Nihility realm. Blood Sea sect? Hearing that this matter was done by the Blood Sea sect, Longao believed it completely. This was because the Blood Sea sect had always wanted to kill him. It was completely possible that the Blood Sea sect wanted to frame him. Moreover, Longao did not believe that the Ghost King, as the master of the Ghost King sect, would lie to him. It was the Blood River sect again. Longao's face turned cold as he clenched his fists tightly. Longao knew very well that the grudge between him and the Blood Sea sect would have to be resolved sooner or later. However, the most troublesome thing now was the Golden Sun sect. He already knew that the Blood Sea sect had framed him, but the Golden Sun sect did not know, and Zhang Mo did not know either. Zhang Mo's only son had been killed. He believed that Zhang Mo was now going crazy. How could he let him go? Longao, I have already discussed with Brother Xia. Later, Brother Zhang will come. In front of Brother Zhang, we will expose the treachery of the Blood Sea sect and prove your innocence. Many thanks. Well, I have to leave first. Aoshue will come to find you later. Remember, treat Aoshue well. Looking at the gradually disappearing figure, Longao did not act impulsively. This was because he still did not understand the intentions of the Ghost King sect and the Sound of Thunder sect. Even if the Blood Sea sect framed him, under normal circumstances, the Sound of Thunder sect and the Ghost King sect would not provoke the Blood Sea sect and the Golden Sun sect for him. The more attentive the Sound of Thunder sect and the Ghost King sect were, the more Longao felt that something was wrong. Without continuing to be entangled, Longao began to think about the Golden Sun sect and the Blood Sea sect. 3 days ago, in the Ghost King sect. "Father, let me out! I beg you, let me out!" In a secret room, Aoshua screamed hysterically. She kept banging on the door and roared, "Father, I beg you, let me out! Please don't hurt Longao. Aoshua, between father and Longao, you have to choose." Seeing her father appear, Aoshua's face lit up. She did not choose. Instead, she asked, "Father, why do I always have to choose between the two of you?" "Why?" "Because Longao must die." Looking at the sudden appearance of the master of the Sound of Thunder sect, Xia Fang, Aoshua seemed to have thought of something. She screamed in horror, "Father, you're joining forces with the Sound of Thunder sect to deal with Longao?" Xia Fang sneered and said, "Longao has 2 treasures. Not only can they lock on to martial artists, but they can also change the flow of time. If we asked him to hand them over obediently, I believe your Longao will not. So we have to do this. Even so, Longao will not hand them over." "Haha, Aoshua, don't worry about this. Your father and I have come up with a good idea. I believe that Longao will definitely hand them over obediently. Once he does, it will be the time for him to leave this world." Just as Aoshua was shocked, another version of herself suddenly appeared in front of her. It was exactly the same, as if it was a copy of her. "Master Xia, Master Ao." The voice was exactly the same. Aoshua looked as if she had seen a ghost. She did not know where this woman who looked exactly like her came from. "You want to use her to deal with Longao?" "Aoshua, bear with it. Once we deal with Longao, we will let you out. Oh right, I forgot to tell you. I have just discussed with Brother Xia. After the 9-state storm battle ends, you and Huting will be married." Aoshua was completely stunned. Was this really her father? "Father, why are you doing this to me?" "Humph, shut up. From now on, you are not allowed to call me father. I don't have a daughter like you." Aoshua's face was pale and her body was on the verge of collapsing. Even now, she still could not believe what was happening in front of her. It was simply too sudden. "Aoshua, I'll tell you a secret now. You're not my daughter at all. You're just a bastard of your mother and another man. I've raised you for so many years. It's time for you to repay me. As long as you obediently marry Huting, I'll write off the debt of raising you. Brother Xia, let's go." "Okay." Xia Fang was also a little shocked. He never thought that Aoshua was not Ao Tian's daughter. If he did not see it with his own eyes, he would not believe it even if he was beaten to death. Looking at the 2 people who had already left, Aoshua sat on the ground with a face full of disbelief. She painfully closed her eyes and clenched her fists tightly. There was a kind of anger in her heart that she could not vent. It was very painful. Because even now, Aoshua still could not accept that she was not Ao Tian's daughter. Perhaps because she could not bear the pain, Aoshua fainted. Chapter 226. Ghost King Sect Main Hall. "What's your name?" "Aoshua." "Aoshua? Ha ha, good, very good." At this moment, Ao Tian seemed to have changed into a different person. He was cold and full of yin qi, as if he came from hell. "Brother Ao, this is Aoshua that I chose carefully and made with many things. I can say that even if Longao was standing here, he wouldn't be able to tell that Aoshua is fake. Alright, Brother Xia, according to our agreement, after we kill Longao, we'll each get one of the 2 treasures. As for the other 4 sects, we'll each take half. It's a deal. It's a deal." Ghost King Ao Tian and Xia Fang's agreement made Ghost King Sect and Sound of Thunder Sect form an alliance. After sending Xia Fang away, Ao Tian's face showed a trace of guilt. He said to himself, "Ao Xue, father has wronged you. I'd rather you hate me than have any expectations." It turned out that what Ao Tian said just now was all a lie. Ao Tian knew very well that what he was about to do next was very dangerous. If he made a mistake, he would be doomed eternally. This time, to deal with Longao and join forces with Sound of Thunder sect to deal with the other four sects, it was undoubtedly a very dangerous thing. If he succeeded, Ao Tian would become a man above others. If he failed, the consequences would be unimaginable. In Ao Tian's heart, he had wronged his daughter too much. It was because of this that he would rather Ao Xue hate him now than wait for him to die and let Ao Xue be sad for the rest of her life. "Men! Master! Take good care of the young miss. If anything happens to her, you'll deal with it yourselves." "Yes, master." Proud Heaven was the only one left standing in the hall. In the end, everything was because of power and status. For the sake of status and power, Proud Heaven was willing to abandon his own daughter and stake everything on a single throw. Scarlet Fire Town, Long family. Longao didn't know what had happened in the Ghost King sect. This time, with the testimony of the Leiting sect and the Ghost King sect, even if the Gold Sun sect came to make trouble, he didn't have to worry too much. "Brother Long, father just sent us a letter. 3 days later, he will personally come to the Red Fire Town to help you explain this matter." Xia Jun appeared to be very excited. After all, his father was willing to help his friend. He could also be considered relieved. Seeing that Longao was not happy, he asked in confusion, "Brother Long, what's wrong?" "It's all right, Brother Dugu, Brother Xia. I already know who killed Zhang Zhiheng and framed my people." "Who is it?" Hearing this, both Dugu Bai and Xia Jun were shocked. They didn't know how long Ao knew about this. Blood Sea sect. Blood Sea sect. In an instant, the two already understood what had happened. They clearly knew about the grudge between Longao and the Blood Sea sect. Nodding, Dugu Bai said, "The Blood Sea sect wants to borrow the Gold Sun sect's hand to kill you. The Ghost King has already come. He said that the Ghost King sect and the Leiting sect will help me explain this matter. If nothing unexpected happens, the Blood Sea sect will go for wool and come home shorn." "Ghost King sect?" Dugu Bai seemed to have thought of something and said, "Brother Long, the Ghost King stopped you from being together with Ao Xue. In just a few days, could it be that there have been changes?" "Big Brother Dugu, you're worrying too much. Maybe the Ghost King has realized his mistake and changed for his daughter's sake. No matter what, the Ghost King and father are willing to testify for Brother Long. The Blood Sea sect's scheme will fall apart by itself. For Brother Long, this might not be a bad thing. All right, Brother Dugu, Brother Xia, now that the matter has been resolved, you should go back and cultivate properly. Prepare to participate in the Battle of the 9 States." Dugu Bai and Xia Jun also knew that since the sect and Ghost King's sect had already interfered, it seemed like nothing would happen to Brother Long and Scarlet Fire Town. Because of this, Dugu Bai nodded and said, "If that's the case, then we'll go back first. If anything happens, we'll rush over immediately." After sending off the two, Longao immediately entered the Dragon Seal space and found Long Fu. He went straight to the point and said, "Long Fu, is there any way for me to break through to the earthly sovereign realm in the shortest time possible?" Longao knew that with his current human king realm, if he encountered a Tao ancestor, he would be restrained everywhere. If his cultivation could break through the earthly emperor realm, then even if he could not kill a Tao ancestor warrior, he would at least be in an invincible position. Long Fu thought for a moment, then shook his head and said, "Master, forcibly increasing your strength will be very harmful to your future cultivation. Therefore, this is absolutely impossible." Hearing Long Fu's words, Longao already knew that Long Fu definitely had a way to increase his cultivation quickly. Under normal circumstances, Longao wouldn't forcibly increase his strength. Without Long Fu's words, he knew the consequences of forcibly breaking through to the earthly sovereign realm. "Long Fu, you should know about my situation. Right now, I need strength. Therefore, you must help me break through to the earthly sovereign realm in the shortest time possible. How could Long Fu not know about his master's character? He had no choice but to nod and say, Master, I do have a way to help you break through to the earthly sovereign realm in the shortest time possible. However, as I said before, the consequences of doing so are too great. At this point, Longao couldn't care about anything else. Not to mention the upcoming Battle of the Nine Regions, he had to prepare everything for the Golden Sun sect's visit this time. Because no one could guarantee that the Golden Sun sect wouldn't fight with him this time. Again, there were too many variables in this matter. First of all, if the Leitang sect and the Ghost King sect suddenly changed their minds and there was no one to testify for him, wouldn't the Golden Sun sect seek revenge on him? Second, if the Golden Sun sect didn't believe what the Ghost King sect and Xiafang said and believed that Zhang Zhiheng was killed by him, they would have to fight in the end. There were too many variables. Longao didn't dare to gamble. If his cultivation could break through to the earthly sovereign realm, as long as the other party didn't send a void warrior, once he used the 9 needles to seal the gods, who could be his opponent? Because of this, Longao had decided that no matter what happened, even if it really affected his future cultivation, he would improve his strength for the sake of his family. Master, I can't stop you. I can only do my best to help you. If you want to break through to the earthly sovereign realm from the human king realm in the shortest time possible, you have to forcibly devour power. I have already thought about it. It's very difficult to find a soul now. Moreover, in your current situation, you need too much power. The 3 of them sat together and drank for an entire night. The next morning, the 2 of them got up and left the Scarlet Flame town. Aoer, thank you for your hard work. Without even looking, Longao knew who was standing beside him. On the city wall of the Scarlet Flame town, Longao and his father, Long Yi and Longao, were facing the breeze and looking at the endless void in the distance. Father, if something happens to me one day, the family will depend on you. Don't talk nonsense. With a smile, Longao once again returned to that young and inexperienced little boy and said, Nothing will happen to me. I will stand at the peak of martial arts and look down on the world. I will not let my family be in any danger. Long Yi did not say anything and just looked at his son. In just a few months, Long Yi realized that the distance between him and his son had become so far apart. Dusk. With Aoshua's arrival, Longao's gloomy face was swept away. Holding Aoshua's little hand, he entered the small courtyard and talked about his lovesickness. Longao, have you been well? Nodding, Longao smiled gently and said, I've been well. Aoshua, what's wrong? You don't look too good. Startled, the fake Aoshua pretended to be calm and said, I'm fine. Besides missing you, I came here for an even more important matter. I heard Father say that you have a treasure on you that can change the flow of time. Is that true? Looking at Aoshua in front of him, Longao did not know why, but he felt that Aoshua was a bit strange. It was as if something was wrong, but he couldn't tell what it was. What was it? Towards Aoshua, Longao naturally would not hide anything. He nodded and said, That's right. The God-punishing mirror has 2 sides. The yang side can speed up time by 3 seconds, and the other side can reverse time by 3 seconds. Longao became even more curious. Every time he met Aoshua, she had never asked him about treasures. Although he was suspicious, Longao still chose to believe in Aoshua. Can I see it? Longao frowned slightly. It was not that he didn't want to show it to Aoshua, but that the strange feeling in his heart was getting stronger. He nodded and stood up, saying, Wait here, I'll get it for you. Halfway there, Longao suddenly turned around and said, I really want to hear you call me. Call me what? Longao's sudden action completely confused the fake Aoshua. In order not to expose herself, the fake Aoshua shouted, Longao. Hearing the fake call him, Longao smiled and nodded, saying, Wait, I'll get it for you. Longao didn't stop again. After a while, he had already entered the room. Through the broken window, His eyes stared at Ao Shui, who was sitting on the stone bench. The appearance is the same, the voice is the same. The only thing you don't know is that Ao Shui likes to call me stinky brat. The fake Ao Shui never thought that the words, stinky brat, would betray her. After a full hour, Longao opened the door and walked out. His face was expressionless as he sat down beside Ao Shui. Longao, where's the God-punishing mirror? Who are you? I'm Ao Shui. Who are you? Longao, what's wrong with you? I'm really Ao Shui. Have you forgotten about me? The fake Ao Shui revealed a sad expression. Tears even welled up in her eyes, as if they could fall at any moment. Although I don't know who you are and why you're pretending to be Ao Shui, I can tell you one thing. Ao Shui, my woman, likes to call me stinky brat, not Longao. Do you understand? After her identity was exposed, the fake Ao Shui's expression changed. She stood up, wanting to say something, but hesitated. Her body even started to tremble. I'll ask you one last time. Who are you? If you tell me, I can let you go. Actually I am. Gotcha. Without waiting for the fake Ao Shui to finish his words, he was already struck by a palm on the top of his head, and died. Looking at the two people who suddenly appeared, Longao's face did not have the slightest bit of displeasure or anger. You actually dare to pretend to be my daughter? You really don't know what's good for you. Longao, did you find out who this person is? The two people who came were none other than the master of Ghost King's sect, Ao Tian, and the master of Sound of Thunder sect, Xia Fang. P.S. The 20,000 words I owe today will be completed tomorrow. Little 9 is a little tired and will go rest first. Those who have monthly votes can vote for War God Longao. Chapter 228. Longao wanted to stop him, but it was too late. His face was a bit ugly because Longao didn't have time to ask who this person was and why he was pretending to be Ao Shui. Longao, I killed this person. Do you blame me? Things had already reached this point. Even if Longao wanted to blame him, he couldn't. He nodded and said, No. Xia Fang smiled and said, Longao, don't worry. This time Zhang Mo came to find trouble. Brother Ao and I will testify for you. Blood Sea sect is really shameless. They actually want to frame you. Thank you. For some reason, Longao felt a bit uncomfortable. He got up and sent the two off. He went straight to his room to rest. The current Long family was no longer the same as before. Xia Fang and Ao Tian, as the master of the two sects, were of course arranged to rest in the most luxurious room. Inside the room. Brother Ao, you were a bit too reckless just now. Is Longao already suspicious? Ao Tian waved his hand and said confidently. No, you saw it just now. Longao seemed a bit absent-minded. If we act now, the chances of success are very high. Brother Ao, you have to think clearly. Once we act, if the two treasures are not on Longao, it won't be easy for us to find them. Xia Fang wasn't a fool. If it was him, he wouldn't have brought the treasures with him. So they only had one chance. Thinking that Zhang Mo had two treasures, Xia Fang's heart itched. As for who leaked it, it was very simple. It was Du Heshuan. Guan Feng's intention was very simple. If the news of Longao having treasures was leaked, there would be a lot of people fighting for them. At that time, when the two tigers fought, one would be injured. Wouldn't it be better for Blood Sea sect to stand out and clean up the mess? One had to admit that Guan Feng's plan was very good. In order to ensure that nothing went wrong, Ghost King chose to temporarily endure. The backyard of the Long family, which was also the so-called forbidden area. Big Brother Qilin, there will be many experts gathering at the Long family later. If there is any accident, I hope that Big Brother Qilin can help. Kill those who are hostile to the Long family. You don't have to give me face. Alright, I got it. Hurry up and leave. The fire Qilin was recovering its strength and didn't want to be disturbed. Fortunately, it was Longao who had barged in. If it was anyone else, they would have become a corpse by now. With the fire Qilin overseeing the family, Longao was not worried about the safety of the family. No matter what, the Fire Chilin's strength was there for all to see. Actually, what Longao was most worried about was whether the Nihility Realm warrior who had framed him would come this time. After all, the Nihility Realm warrior was very powerful. If the Fire Chilin was unable to contend with him, what would happen? Dusk. As expected, Zhang Mo's figure appeared in the Red Fire Town. The moment Zhang Mo stepped into the Red Fire Town, Longao had already received the news. The only thing that made him curious was that Zhang Mo had come alone this time without bringing any disciples. What the hell was Zhang Mo doing outside the Long family? Longao, a life for a life, a debt must be paid with money. You killed my son, so you must pay with your life. I'll give you a chance now. Kill yourself? Zhang Mo didn't say much nonsense and went straight to the point. His only son had been killed and Zhang Mo had been suppressing the anger in his heart. These days, Zhang Mo had been negotiating with the sect to use the power of the entire sect to destroy the Red Fire Town. However, the final result of the negotiation was that the sect wanted to settle the Battle of the 9 States first, and then deal with the Red Fire Town in the future. However, Zhang Mo couldn't wait for these few days. Brother Zhang, why are you so angry? Looking at Xia Fang and the Ghost King who had walked out of the Long family, Zhang Mo's face instantly turned gloomy and ugly. Xia Fang, Aotian, this is a grudge between me and Longao. Do you want to intervene? Although the 6 major sects had been fighting openly and secretly, they had never really shed all pretense of cordiality. This was because the 6 major sects were very clear that once they started fighting, both sides would suffer losses and there would be no benefits. However, the situation was completely different now. Zhang Mo had made it clear that he had to avenge his son. However, Xia Fang and Aotian had appeared in the Long family at this time. Even ghosts knew what they were thinking. Because of this, Zhang Mo still didn't choose to retreat. His body emitted waves of killing intent. Brother Zhang, don't be impatient. Actually, there is a misunderstanding between the two of you. Why don't we sit down and talk? There's nothing to talk about. Longao, the grudge of my son's death is irreconcilable. Today, I will kill you. Brother Zhang, Zhang Zhihong wasn't killed by Longao. Zhang Mo, who was about to attack, stopped abruptly after hearing Xia Fang's words. He seemed to be curious and asked, If it wasn't Longao, then who was it? Blood Sea Sect. Impossible. Blood Sea Sect couldn't have killed my son. Brother Zhang, Brother Ao, and I swear on our honor that this was indeed done by Blood Sea Sect. The reason is very simple. Blood Sea Sect just wants to frame Golden Sun Sect and Longao to kill each other, and Blood Sea Sect will reap the benefits. Zhang Mo was not a fool. Of course, he knew whether this was true or false. Could it really be done by Blood Sea Sect? Brother Ao, Brother Xia, I'll ask you one last time. Was my son really killed by Blood Sea Sect? Yes. It's absolutely true. If it was only one person who said this, Zhang Mo might have doubted it. However, now that Ao Tian and Xia Fang said so, even if Zhang Mo didn't want to believe it, he still chose to believe it. Without saying anything more, Zhang Mo turned around and left. When he was halfway there, he stopped and said, Longao, although my son was not killed by you, he was injured by you. The Battle of the 9 Regions is about to begin. I'll give you time. After the Battle of the 9 Regions is over, I'll have a life-and-death battle with you to completely resolve the grudge between us. Looking at the gradually disappearing figure, Ao Tian and Xia Fang also chose not to stay. It was supposed to be a storm, but it ended like this. Was it a good thing or a bad thing? Longao couldn't say for sure. In any case, he felt that something was wrong. However, the Battle of the 9 States was about to start. Everything would have to wait until he finished the Battle of the 9 States. Brother Ao, why don't you attack? Zhang Mo already believes that it was Blood Sea Sect who killed his son. If there is no accident, Blood Sea Sect and Golden Sun Sect will fight after the Battle of the 9 States. As for Longao, I can't see through him. When he participates in the Battle of the Nine States, we'll control the Longao. I don't believe that Longao will still be tough. Xia Fang nodded to show that he agreed with Ao Tian's idea. He had to admit that as the master of Thunder Sound sect and Ghost King sect, they were indeed shameless to the extreme. Chapter 229. The reason Ao Tian hadn't done anything was because of the Nine Provinces Storm Battle. The Nine Provinces Storm Battle was held once every 10 years. Over 900 people from each of the 9 provinces' rankings would participate, fighting for the top 10 spots. Longao was ranked 3rd on the Tianzhou province's ranking. He could be said to be the main force of the Tianzhou province. However, no one was optimistic about Longao's chances. The reason was simple. Longao's true strength was only in the sovereign realm. The only reason he had been able to defeat Zhang Zhiheng was because he had used an unorthodox method. Under normal circumstances, the 3rd place should be the Peak Earth Sovereign. But what about Longao? He was only in the sovereign realm. He was an entire realm away from the Peak Earth Sovereign realm. Although Longao's strength hadn't reached the Peak Earth Sovereign realm, he had still defeated Zhang Zhiheng. That was why he was ranked 3rd. Longao represented the Tianzhou province in the 9 provinces storm battle. The 9 provinces storm battle was held once every 10 years. But no matter which time it was held, the Tianzhou province was always at the bottom. The 9 provinces storm battle had become a sore point for the Tianzhou province. Because of that, the 6 great sects of the Tianzhou province all wanted to regain their face. The martial heaven continent was divided into 9 provinces. They were the Tianzhou province, the Earth Prefecture, the Sun Prefecture, the Moon Prefecture, the Setting Sun Prefecture, the Cloud Prefecture, the Crimson Prefecture, the Illusion Prefecture, and the Black Forest Prefecture. According to the rankings of the 9 provinces, the Tianzhou province was definitely ranked last. The battleground of the Battle of the 9 States was different every time. The 9 states rotated. In other words, this year's Battle of the 9 States was held in the Tianzhou. Then, the second one would be held in the Earth State, and so on. It rotated every 90 years. This year's 9 provinces storm battle was held in the Crimson Prefecture. Because of that, the sovereign kings of the other 8 provinces all went to the Crimson Prefecture. The 9 provinces had 900 people on the 9 rankings. However, less than 800 people could truly participate in the 9 provinces storm battle. Longao, Dugubai, and Xia Jun set off from the Tianzhou province, heading toward the Crimson Prefecture. Brother Long, I heard from the master that Zhang Mo has already issued a challenge to you. Did you accept? No, but the grudge between me and Zhang Mo will be resolved sooner or later. In that case, I have decided that when I go back this time, I will personally go to the Gold Sun sect and accept Zhang Mo's challenge. Hearing Longao's words, neither Dugubai nor Xia Jun were surprised at all. The two of them knew Longao's personality very well. Was it strange for someone who dared to go to the Ghost King's sect alone to steal the bride to accept Zhang Mo's challenge? However, Dugubai and Xia Jun's faces were filled with worry. Dugubai thought for a moment. In the end, he said, Brother Long, forgive me for speaking bluntly. With your current strength, it is simply impossible for you to be a match for Zhang Mo. How could Longao not know what Dugubai had said? One had to know that Zhang Mo was a true Void Honorable. The difference between the Metamorphosis realm and the Void realm was too great. They were not on the same level at all. Although Longao was confident in his own strength, he knew his own limits. With his current strength, it was simply impossible for him to be a match for Zhang Mo. However, Longao had already decided that after this 9-state storm battle, he would immediately go to the Gold Sun sect and resolve the grudge between him and Zhang Mo once and for all. According to Dugubai and Xia Jun, Longao already knew that every 9-state storm battle would last for 3 months. Including the journey back and forth, it would take about half a year. It was precisely because of time that Longao was so confident. Half a year. He was confident that he would be able to break through to the Void Realm in half a year. Brother Long, let me give you a piece of advice regarding the grudge between you and Zhang Mo. If possible, you should postpone it. Big Brother Dugu, why is that? Longao was very confused. However, with the grudge between him and Zhang Mo, it would have to be resolved sooner or later. Since that was the case, it would be better to resolve it sooner rather than later. Dugubai said solemnly, Brother Long, you might not know this. Although the Gold Sun sect is not as strong as the Blazing Flame sect and the Thunder Battle sect, they still have sovereigns. Void Sovereign? As expected, Longao had already guessed this before. The 6 major sects were the overlords of the Tianzhou region. He believed that there must be a prime being in charge. Otherwise, the 6 major sect masters' title as overlords would be a little undeserved. The Void Realm, from lowest to highest, was the Disaster Realm, Sovereign Realm, Earthly Sovereign Realm, Heavenly Sovereign Realm, Great Sovereign Realm, World King Realm, and World Emperor Realm. Xia Jun, who had been silent all this time, said in a low voice, Brother Long, let me tell you a secret. Not only are there sovereigns in the 6 great sects, there are also earthly sovereigns. If you go to the Gold Sun sect and provoke a sovereign or earthly sovereign, things will become very troublesome. Brother Long, sovereigns and earthly sovereigns are not restricted by the sections. If you provoke them, even the sects will not be able to protect you. Longao already understood what Dugubai and Xia Jun meant. In the end, the Gold Sun sect was still untouchable. Even if his cultivation had broken through to the Void Realm, it would still be the same. Seeing Longao fall into deep thought, Dugubai and Xia Jun did not continue to dwell on this matter. The two of them knew that the 9-state storm battle had ended half a year ago. Perhaps with Brother Long's talent and potential, he could directly become an earthly sovereign in half a year. At that time, not to mention the Gold Sun sect, he could even sweep through the sky region. Big Brother Dugu, tell me more about the 9-state storm battle. Dugubai knew that Longao did not want to dwell on this matter. Since that was the case, Dugubai and Xia Jun did not continue. Brother Long, the 9-state storm battle is held once every 10 years. 800 to 900 people enter an independent space and fight each other for the tokens in each other's hands. For 3 whole months, corpses litter the ground and blood flows like rivers. Fighting for 3 months, one could imagine how tragic the 9-state storm battle was. Brother Long, every time the 9-state storm battle ends, the 9-state storm rankings will change greatly. It will take 3 to 5 years for them to recover. Big Brother Dugu, I'm very curious. If that's the case, why do the 9 states still hold the storm battle? Many years ago, the 9 states held the 9-state storm battle for the first time to promote the strength of the state's disciples. However, as time passed, the interest of the 9-state storm battle began to change. It has now evolved into a slaughterhouse. Whoever kills the most people can become unparalleled in the 9-state storm battle. In the Battle of the 9 Prefectures, to be able to stand at the top meant that one could be unparalleled and look down on his peers. Which young warrior would not want such an honor? Putting himself in Longao's shoes, Longao thought that he could not resist such a temptation. Brother Long, I want to tell you that when you enter the slaughterhouse, you must not show any mercy. Otherwise, you will be the first to go to hell. Was it necessary? However, as the young master of the Golden Sun sect and a famous figure on the Fengyan list, Xia Jun could have any woman he wanted. What's more, Xia Jun himself was not a pervert or a playboy. But what happened now? Little Jun, what happened to you? I don't know. When I saw that woman, I had a strange feeling. Strange feeling? Dugubai seemed to have thought of something and immediately turned Xia Jun around. He slapped Xia Jun's back and gradually, Xia Jun regained his senses. He was sweating profusely and did not know what happened to him. Xia Jun said fearfully, "What a terrifying charm technique! If it wasn't for Big Brother Dugu, I would have been tricked." Charm technique? Hearing Xia Jun mention charm technique, Longao and Dugubai instantly understood what was going on. Could it be the woman from earlier? The two of them looked at the masculine beauty opposite them. If they had not heard it with their own ears, they would not have believed it. This was because they had already sensed that the beauty opposite them was a Khanate Convergence Realm warrior, while Xia Jun was an earthly sovereign. Precisely so, Xia Jun was almost tricked. What did this mean? There was only one explanation. This bandit beauty's charm technique was too powerful. Sheiji seemed to be a little surprised as she smiled and said, "Among the three of us, your willpower is the weakest. I thought I could handle you." As expected. "Who are you?" "Haha, you are actually asking who our fort master is? Three brats, prick up your ears and listen carefully. This is our snake fort master. Everyone loves her. Flowers bloom when they see her. Fish jump when they see her. Birds chirp when they see her. She would even open the lid of a coffin when she sees it. Why aren't you kneeling when you see our fort master?" Hearing such a long title, Longao and company felt like laughing. However, Longao and company were constantly on guard. Sheiji's strength might be average, but her charm technique was unparalleled. Since she was able to trick Xia Jun, it already explained everything. "Cut the crap. If the three of you want to pass through here, you will have to leave something behind." "May I ask Fort Master Sheiji, what do we have to leave behind in order to pass through here?" Since it was still early, Dugubai and company were not in a hurry to leave. Since that was the case, they might as well play with the bandit beauty. Actually, the three of them also wanted to find out who the other party was. After all, someone who could use such a charm technique could not be simple. Sheiji gave it some thought and said, "Very simple. Leave this person behind to be my fort master. Then the two of you can leave." Seeing Sheiji pointing at Longao and actually wanting to make Longao her fort master, Dugubai and Xia Jun laughed. Truly, when a woman became strong, she was even more terrifying than a man. They had only heard of fort master's wife, but they had never heard of fort master's husband. "Brother Long, you are in luck this time. Brother Long, why don't you submit? This fort master Sheiji is not bad." Seeing Dugubai and Xia Jun teasing him, Longao had a helpless expression. He had seen valiant men before, but he had never seen such a valiant woman. In front of such a woman, any man would pale in comparison. "What's your name?" "Cough, cough. Fort Master Sheiji, my name is Dugubai. These two are my good brothers, Xia Jun and Longao." "That's right, you just said that you want my brother to be your fort master. I wonder if I can do that. Anyway, having one more fort master is not bad. What do you think?" Hearing Dugubai teasing Sheiji, Longao and Xia Jun were very surprised. According to Dugubai's character, even if he did not immediately kill the other party, he would not tease Sheiji. Could it be that Dugubai had feelings for Sheiji? Longao and Xia Jun looked at each other and unnaturally took a step back. Even so, Dugubai ignored them and smiled at Sheiji. "With your looks, scram to the side. Longao, this old lady wants you. The other two can scram if there's nothing else. This old lady wants to consummate her marriage tonight." Hearing Sheiji's words, Longao staggered and nearly fell. Chapter 231. "Brother Dugu, Brother Xia, let's go." Seeing that the three of them did not place her in their eyes, Sheiji was enraged and scolded. "You don't know what's good for you. Men, tie them up. If you don't use force, do you think I'm a pushover?" The few burly men who dashed out left quickly and returned quickly. Amidst their screams, they made the most intimate contact with the ground. As transformation realm warriors, as long as the three of them were unwilling, Sheiji and company would not be able to sense their strength. As the saying goes, once an expert makes a move, the truth will be revealed. Seeing that the three of them did not move and use their aura to deal with her subordinates, Sheiji's expression instantly turned gloomy. "Sheiji, we still have matters to attend to. You better step aside, or we won't be polite. With just the two of you." This time, Sheiji personally took action. With a stride forward, her entire body darted out like a cheetah. Longao and Xia Jun smiled without saying a word. A Khanate Convergence Realm warrior was nothing to them. Even if they stood still, their aura alone was enough to defeat Sheiji. However, Longao and Xia Jun did not move. Instead, they looked at Dugubai with the same expression on their faces. If it were any other time, Dugubai would never bully Sheiji. However, for some reason, Dugubai smiled and darted out. In a blink of an eye, the two of them had fought for more than 10 rounds with no clear victor. With no clear victor after more than 10 rounds, the smiles on Longao and Xia Jun's faces became even more intense. Brother Long, what do you think? If I'm not wrong, Brother Dugu must be feeling amorous. Xia Jun smiled and said, all these years, Brother Dugu only knows how to cultivate. However, that might not be a good thing. If Brother Dugu can find a good home, it might not be a bad thing. Nodding in agreement, Longao and Xia Jun did not wish to continue watching. They took a detour and prepared to leave. Stop right there. Our fort master did not say anything. None of you are allowed to leave. Longao and Xia Jun did not even put the other party in their eyes. The two of them continued to do as they wished. Under the shocked gazes of the crowd, the two of them left. Dugubai and Sheiji were still engaged in a fierce battle. According to Dugubai's strength, he could kill Sheiji in less than a single strike, much less a dozen rounds. But now, Longao and Xia Jun didn't go far. Instead, they stopped at a certain place and sat down to wait. According to their calculations, it would take at most an hour for Brother Dugu to finish Sheiji. However, they ended up waiting for 6 hours. Seeing Dugubai running over, Xia Jun got straight to the point and asked, Big Brother Dugu, how is it? What? You and Sheiji. It's done. When we return from the Crimson Province, I'll go find her. Done? Longao and Xia Jun didn't say anything. They just gave Dugubai a thumbs up to show their admiration. This made Dugubai feel embarrassed. Sheiji was considered a small interlude, but the three of them never expected that Sheiji would bring them endless trouble in the future. This was a story for the future. The border between the Sky Province and the Crimson Province was very big. It would take at least a day to leave this place and enter the Crimson Province. There was still some time before the start of the Battle of the 9 Provinces, so the three of them weren't in a hurry. Crimson Fire Town, Long family. Ever since Longao left, Longao had seized the opportunity to increase the overall strength of the family. With the help of pills and spirit stones, the family's disciples had made great progress. Even Longin and the others had broken through to the 10th celestial stage. As for Longing, she had reached the evolution stage. Ghost King Nao Tian and Xia Fang appeared in Crimson Fire Town's Long family. Without alerting anyone, after a discussion between Nao Tian and Xia Fang, they decided to control 3 people first. Longao's grandfather Longao, father Long-yi, and mother Mulin. The two of them knew very well that the entire Crimson Fire Town and the Long family wouldn't be able to control 3 people. Instead of going through the trouble, they might as well simplify it. Stepping into the Long family, Ao Tian and Xia Fang's expressions changed slightly. The two of them noticed a weak aura in the backyard of the Long family. It didn't seem strong, but it was endless. Brother Ao, who is it? Let's go take a look. Seeing this, Ao Tian and Xia Fang didn't immediately control Longao and the others. Instead, they shot towards the backyard. The backyard was the Long family's forbidden area. Other than Longao, no one was allowed to enter, including Longao. The backyard was also the Long family's biggest secret. No one knew what existed in the backyard and why it was listed as a forbidden area by the Long family. Just as they stepped into the backyard, Ao Tian and Xia Fang's expressions changed. An unparalleled aura instantly suppressed them. Who is it? World Emperor! Ghost King exclaimed. He seemed to have sensed something. He was so scared that his body trembled. World Emperor, a pinnacle void stage powerhouse. How could the Long family have such a powerhouse? Even if they didn't want to believe it, Ghost King and Xia Fang were completely scared out of their wits. They didn't dare to stay any longer and scrambled away. After the two of them left, the Fire Qilin's voice sounded. If it wasn't for the fact that my injuries haven't healed, don't even think about leaving. It turned out that the Fire Qilin was just bluffing. After all, the Fire Qilin's injuries were very serious. It was impossible for it to be a match for the two of them. However, the aura it released just now was enough to scare them to death. After leaving the Long family, the two of them didn't stop at all. They left the Scarlet Fire town as quickly as possible. Brother Ao, what's going on? Why does the Long family have a world emperor? Ao Tian waved his hand and said, Something's not right. If the Long family really has a world emperor, would we still be standing here? Brother Xia, come back with me. I want to see if the Long family has a world emperor. Hearing that Ao Tian wanted to go back, Xia Fong was almost scared to death. He said in horror, Brother Ao, if you want to go, you go. I definitely won't go. If we're unlucky and really offend this World Emperor Senior, not just you and me, even the sect will be unlucky. Without waiting for Ao Tian to say anything, Xia Fong got up and left quickly. In a short while, he disappeared without a trace. Ao Tian stared at the Scarlet Fire town in front of him. He didn't take a step forward. Just as Xia Fong said, they didn't dare to take the risk. After all, the strength of a world emperor was there. If they offended a world emperor, even if the Sound of Thunder sect and Ghost King sect worked together, they would still suffer. The Ghost King Ao Tian was very unwilling in his heart. He stared at the Long family's direction and muttered to himself, Long Ao, even if I can't control your family, you must still die. I will wait for you to come back. Ao Tian suddenly let out a sinister laugh. It was especially eerie and terrifying. It was as if he came from hell. Chapter 232. Corpse Mountain. The boundary between the Tianzhou and the Crimson Continent was divided according to the division. The Tianzhou was to the south of the Corpse Mountain, and the Crimson Continent was to the north. It could be said that if one wanted to go from the Tianzhou to the Crimson Continent, they would have to pass through the Corpse Mountain. Similarly, if one wanted to go from the Crimson Continent to the Tianzhou, they would have to pass through the Corpse Mountain. The Corpse Mountain was known as a warrior's hell. In other words, out of 100 warriors who entered the Corpse Mountain, less than 1/10 of them would come out alive. Corpses could be seen everywhere in the Corpse Mountain. It would not be an exaggeration to say that corpses were everywhere. Outside the Corpse Mountain. After listening to Xia Jun's explanation, Long Ao sighed. He never thought that there would be such a place at the border between the Tianzhou and the Crimson Continent. Big Brother Dugu, I want to ask, how do warriors die after entering the Corpse Mountain? Regarding this point, Long Ao was puzzled because according to Xia Jun just now, only 10% of the cultivators who entered could come out alive. Then what happened to the remaining 90% in the Corpse Mountain? According to the survivors, the Corpse Mountain has a very strange air current. If a warrior breathes it in, they will die immediately. Moreover, there are also spirit beasts in the Corpse Mountain. These spirit beasts are extremely ferocious and much stronger than ordinary spirit beasts. So that was it. Looking at the Corpse Mountain in front of him, Long Ao knew that the Corpse Mountain was the only way to reach the Crimson Continent. Brother Long, little June, after we enter the Corpse Mountain, remember not to wander around. Just keep moving forward. If we accidentally get separated, we will meet on the other side of the Corpse Mountain. Long Ao and Xia Jun also knew the seriousness of the matter, so they both nodded. After a short rest, the three of them did not hesitate, and immediately stepped into the Corpse Mountain. Just as they entered the Corpse Mountain, the three of them frowned. It was exactly as Dugabai had said. There was a very strange air current within the Corpse Mountain. Although it was very thin, it was fatal if one were to absorb too much of it. The three of them did not dare to absorb it. They cautiously walked forward with 120% concentration. Perhaps it was bad luck, but as soon as the three of them entered the Corpse Mountain, the entire Corpse Mountain was shrouded in black fog. They did not know what was happening. It was like the night, they could not see their fingers. Brother Dugu, Brother Xia, where are you? There was no reply. Long Ao did not dare to stay where he was. He definitely could not see anything. He could only rely on his aura and senses as a cultivator to slowly walk forward step by step. Corpse Mountain. Within a day, such a situation would occur 3 times, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and one in the evening. Each time, it would last for about 3 to 5 minutes. When the black fog receded, Longao discovered that Dugubai and Xia Jun had already disappeared. Did they get separated? They had only entered the Corpse Mountain for less than 10 minutes, but the 3 of them had already separated. It seemed that they could only rely on themselves to leave this place. Just as Longao was carefully walking forward, he suddenly felt a force fiercely colliding with him from behind. In his shock, he dodged slightly, but was still hit head-on, causing him to grimace in pain. Behind him, a 3-meter-long giant black wolf was staring at him. Feeling the murderous aura emitted from the giant wolf, Longao did not step back. Taking the initiative to strike first, Longao pushed off the ground with his right foot, and his entire body shot out. The wild devouring saber in his hand hacked out. The saber light was like a sharp sword leaving a bow, shooting towards the wolf like a comet. Looking at the incoming saber light, the wolf laughed in disdain. A purplish-black chi spread out from its body, forming a black chi shield in front of it. Furthermore, it formed a small tornado, spinning around it. The saber light pierced through space and struck the tornado. Before Longao could react, the saber light had already been swallowed up by the tornado, disappearing without a trace. Longao was greatly shocked. He had never imagined that the huge dragon would not be able to detect his saber light. He did not dare to be careless. He formed hand seals with both hands and a strong aura spread out in all directions. The huge wolf still had a look of disdain on its face. Its limbs were weak, but its speed was like a gust of wind. In the blink of an eye, it had already arrived beside Longao. Opening its bloody mouth, the huge dragon bit towards Longao. At this moment, the huge wolf seemed to have merged with the surrounding chi, greatly increasing its strength. "I'll let you try the divine dragon arm!" A dragon roar resounded. Before the huge wolf could react, Longao's body had already merged with his right arm. The divine dragon arm was completed in an instant. Longao looked coldly at the huge wolf in front of him. Soul attack. Soul fluctuations ruthlessly collided with the huge wolf's mind. With its soul injured, the huge wolf was like a drunkard, swaying left and right. Rejoicing in his heart, Longao did not give up on this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He raised the divine dragon arm and smashed it towards the huge wolf. If the huge wolf's soul had not been injured, it might have been able to break free. But now, Longao punched the huge wolf again and again. The strength of the divine dragon arm was at least 10,000 jin. Every punch was like a small mountain crashing down, causing the huge wolf to howl in pain. Longao did not have the slightest bit of pity, because he clearly knew that he had to be decisive when dealing with enemies. As the saying goes, being merciful to the enemy is being cruel to yourself. Take my last punch! Longao's dragon arm resounded with the sound of a dragon. A black-colored huge dragon's virtual image danced wildly. Coupled with Longao's black clothes and white hair, it was as if a killing god had descended. It appeared so overbearing. Gathering all the strength in his body and Long Chang's strength, Longao roared. He stomped on the ground, and his body left the ground on 3 sides. Then, he turned around and smashed the divine dragon arm towards the huge wolf. The fist force, along with the dragon's breath, gathered on Longao's divine dragon arm descending from the sky. The fist landed on the huge wolf's head. Crack! No matter how hard the huge wolf's head was, it could not take such a heavy blow. The result was obvious. After killing the huge wolf with a single punch, Longao heaved a sigh of relief. He had to admit that the spirit beasts in the Corpse Mountain were indeed stronger than those outside. Hiss! 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 Before Longao could take a good rest, he heard a hissing sound coming from the front. Out of curiosity, he looked over. If he did not look, he would not have known. But when he looked, he was shocked. A huge python appeared in front of him. Its body was dozens of meters long, but it had two heads. One was ice blue and the other was crimson red. Ice-fire twin-headed python! Longao exclaimed. He was not unfamiliar with this huge python. He had read a book that recorded all sorts of spirit beasts. Among them, the ice-fire twin-headed python was extremely strong. Not only that, it had the blood of a huge dragon. It could be considered as a branch of the dragon race, and was the closest existence to a huge dragon. There were even rumors that as long as the two heads of the ice-fire twin-headed python fused together, they would become one. Like a carp leaping through the dragon's gate, it would evolve into a real huge dragon. Chapter 233. Longao knew very well that with his current strength, he was no match for the ice-fire two-headed python. Not daring to hesitate, Longao turned and fled into the distance. The ice-fire two-headed python was extremely fast. Before Longao could leave, its huge body was already upon him, blotting out the sky. The ice-fire two-headed python's cold eyes carried a trace of disdain. Its huge snake head continuously spat out snake venom. Looking at the giant python that had already caught up to him, Longao knew very well that with his speed, there was no way he could escape safely. Since he was going to fight anyway, there was no need for him to hide. Cursing in his heart, Longao turned around and shot toward the ice-fire two-headed python like a cheetah. Before he arrived, his fist energy arrived first. However, the ice-fire two-headed python clearly did not take Longao seriously. It allowed Longao's fists to land on its body as if he was just scratching an itch. What a terrifying defense! Even his fist energy could not break through the ice-fire two-headed python's physical defense. One could only imagine how terrifying the ice-fire two-headed python's physical defense was. Without any hesitation, Longao continued to attack with the dragon god's arm. Even so, he still could not break through the ice-fire two-headed python's defense. However, the ice-fire two-headed python did not have it as easy as before. The ice-fire two-headed python's two heads each represented two different types of power, the power of ice and the power of fire. Once the two powers collided, the destructive power would be extremely great. From the beginning to the end, the ice-fire two-headed python did not take Longao seriously. In the eyes of the ice-fire two-headed python, Longao was just an ant that it could easily trample to death. The ice-fire two-headed python's huge tail smashed down with terrifying power. If Longao was hit by the tail, even if he had 9 lives, he would not be able to survive. Even if he did not turn into a meat patty, he would still be severely injured. This was the power of the ice-fire two-headed python. Longao did not dare to clash head-on with the ice-fire two-headed python when he saw the python's tail smashing towards him. His body, which was in the midst of his flight, quickly dodged to the side. Seizing this rare opportunity, Longao grabbed the python's tail with both hands. Ah! With a roar, Longao circulated all the power in his body and used the dragon god's arm. Longao crazily circulated his power to fling the ice-fire two-headed python. The ice and fire two-headed python roared angrily towards the sky. The whole world seemed to tremble. Perhaps it had become ruthless. The two heads of the ice and fire two-headed python spurted out flames and ice. The flames mixed with the ice and shot towards Longao. Longao was startled. Longao was startled. Longao was smart. He did not meet the ice-fire two-headed python head-on. Instead, he placed the tail in front of him and allowed the ice-fire two-headed python to attack him. He was attacking himself. The ice-fire two-headed python was thoroughly enraged. However, it was powerless. It could only swing its tail furiously, hoping to shake off the human. But Longao still insisted on hugging the tail. His eyes turned cold. All the power in his body, including the power of the dragon god's arm, was gathered in his hands. Just like that, Longao hugged the ice-fire two-headed python's tail and began to spin. If anyone were to see this, they would definitely find it hilarious. Longao's weak body began to spin the ice fire python's entire body. 1 round, 2 rounds, 3 rounds. After countless rounds, Longao felt that he had no strength left in his body. Finally, he could not hold on any longer. But at the last moment, he threw the ice fire two-headed python away. Plop! The ice fire two-headed python came into contact with the ground. Perhaps it was dizzy from the spinning, but for a moment, the ice fire two-headed python could not react at all. It fell to the ground, panting heavily. With a cold laugh, Longao recovered a little. He immediately stood up and shot towards the ice fire two-headed python. This time, he did not use his fists. Instead, he used his bloodthirsty broadsword. Before Longao could get close, the dizzy ice fire two-headed python suddenly pressed down on him. This time, the ice fire two-headed python had learned its lesson. It did not use its tail at all. Instead, it used its head to hit Longao. One could tell how strong the ice fire two-headed python was just by looking at its 2 heads. It was precisely because of this that Longao did not want to meet the ice fire two-headed python head-on. Instead, he chose to keep moving. Longao would not sit still and wait for death. He also would not keep dodging. Instead, he chose to continue attacking. Moreover, it was his fiercest attack. The bloodthirsty broadsword in his hand continuously used the 8 styles bloodthirsty. Blade light swarmed over, one blade after another. However, the ice fire two-headed python seemed to ignore the bloodthirsty broadsword in Longao's hand. Its 2 heads kept hitting Longao. One had to admit that the ice fire two-headed python was indeed shameless. It took advantage of the collision between its heads to suddenly touch the power of ice and fire. Unable to dodge in time, Longao was hit by the power of ice and fire. He spat out a mouthful of blood and his entire body flew out. Resisting the pain in his body that was about to fall apart, Longao struggled to get up from the ground. He coldly glared at the ice fire two-headed python that was flying towards him. Holding the bloodthirsty broadsword, Longao once again fought with the ice fire two-headed python. This time, Longao still did not choose to meet the ice fire two-headed python head-on. In any case, the ice fire two-headed python was too big. Although it was fast, space did not allow it. Realizing that the opponent did not want to meet it head-on, the ice fire two-headed python constantly roared. It could only be anxious, but it was powerless to do anything. The power of ice and fire was too strong. It had attacked it several times. Therefore, before the ice fire two-headed python was fully confident, it did not dare to use the power of ice and fire. This gave Longao an opportunity. Of the 8 styles bloodthirsty, Longao could now use 5 styles. The first 4 styles were the first style, Yellow Spring's 9 consecutive strikes, the second style, Heart-devouring ice, the third style, Raging flame sea, and the fourth style, World-extinguishing blade light. His cultivation had smoothly broken through to the primary Earth's sovereign realm, and he had practiced the 5th style of bloodthirsty, but Longao did not have the opportunity to use it. In other words, this was the first time that Longao used the 5th style of bloodthirsty, soul-devouring bones. With himself as the center point, Longao's entire body began to spin. It was like a tornado. The resentment in the surroundings continued to gather and entered the tornado. The ice fire two-headed python seemed to be very surprised, but it was full of confidence. Its face was full of contempt, and its huge body once again pressed down on Longao. The ice fire two-headed python's 2 heads simultaneously released the power of ice and fire. When they collided in midair, an even more powerful force erupted. However, Longao was 1 step ahead. When he used the soul-devouring bones, he also rushed out. With the help of his legs in the ground, he directly landed on the ice fire two-headed python's body. Roar! Seeing a human on its body, the ice fire two-headed python was completely angry. It constantly roared and swayed its huge body, wanting to throw the human off. However, Longao was like a magnet, standing firmly on the python's body. No matter how the python swayed its huge body, Longao insisted on one principle: That was, you do your thing, and I do mine. Chapter 234. After swaying for half an hour, the Ice-Fire two-headed python seemed to be a little tired. Dragon Godarm, realizing that the python was tired, Longao moved. Lin Fan channeled all the energy in his body into his fists. Together with the mystical dragon arm, Lin Fan smashed down on the giant python without hesitation. With this punch, his fist sank into the giant python's body. Snake blood spurted out from his fists like a fountain. Looking at the fountain of blood, Longao was completely dumbfounded. Looking at his right arm in a daze, Longao couldn't understand. When did his dragon god arm become so powerful? After being punched so hard, the Ice-Fire two-headed python started swaying its huge body in pain. Longao, who was standing on the python's body, felt like he was sitting on a boat. He swayed back and forth, and if he wasn't careful, he would fall into the sea and drown. However, Longao knew very well that the Ice-Fire two-headed python had been injured by him. The more it moved, the faster its blood flowed. When all its blood flowed out, it would be the end of the Ice-Fire two-headed python. Due to the extreme pain, the python swayed more and more. Longao, who was standing on the python's body, could be thrown off at any time. The python was smashed a little too deeply. Snake blood continued to spurt out. At this rate, no matter how much blood the Ice-Fire two-headed python had, it wouldn't be enough. Sooner or later, it would bleed out and die. Unable to get rid of the human, the python was furious. It roared at the sky. At this moment, the python's body suddenly rolled. Then, with its back facing down, it pressed down hard. The python's intention was simple. It wanted to crush Longao alive. However, would Longao just sit there and wait for death? At this critical moment, Longao's body moved again. He followed the python's body and flipped over, landing on the python's belly. Kill him while he's down. Longao did not hesitate at all. He once again smashed out the divine dragon's arm and fiercely smashed his fist into the belly of the giant python. Snakes have two fatal weaknesses, one is the head and the other is the stomach. However, Longao's luck was not good, and he did not hit the vital parts. Otherwise, this alone would have been enough to kill the giant python. This time, Longao clearly did not want to stop. He gathered all the strength in his body into his hands, took a deep breath, and suddenly pulled out his right fist without any warning. Blood also gushed out. Go to hell! Longao did not dare to let go of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Once again, the divine dragon arm smashed out violently. Pucci, his right fist smashed into the belly of the giant python. Longao quickly pulled it out, and then smashed it in again. In just 3 seconds he smashed it no less than dozens of times. At this moment, the python's belly was filled with blood. The Ice-Fire two-headed python had been badly smashed by Longao, and it had even lost both its eyes. Under the dual attack of pain and anger, Longao used the God-sealing pearl to successfully lock on to the giant python. It would last for about 5 seconds. For Longao, this was more than enough. After locking on to the giant python, Longao did not use the blood-sucking blade. Instead, he continued to use the power of the divine dragon arm to smash the giant python. He did not believe that with his speed and the power of the divine dragon arm, he could not smash the Ice-Fire two-headed python to death. Quickly walking to the giant python's side, Longao coldly looked at the extremely tragic Ice-Fire two-headed python. He said coldly, "You asked for it. You can't blame anyone else. Go to hell." Longao was not an indecisive person. No matter what, he was now in the Corpse Mountain. If this continued, he would not be able to make it before the start of the Battle of the 9 States. Therefore, he had to end this quickly. All the strength in his body once again gathered on his right fist. The divine dragon arm merged with Long Chang's strength. Then, Longao suddenly punched out, directly smashing into the giant python's body. The sudden pain caused the Ice-Fire two-headed python, which was locked on, to suddenly break free. The giant python even ignored the bloody hole on its body. Its entire body began to shrink. Because it was too fast, Longao did not even have time to dodge and was directly entangled by the giant python. The giant python's strength was terrifying, especially when it was the ice-fire two-headed python. The angrier it was, the more terrifying its strength was. In just a few seconds, Longao's face had turned purple and blue veins were popping out. If this continued, Longao would probably be entangled to death. "You forced me," Longao said coldly. Then, he opened his mouth and viciously bit down on the giant python's body. Chapter 235. Under normal circumstances, it was impossible for a single person to bite into the python's flesh. The defense of the ice-fire two-headed python was way too strong. Even if Longao bit into the python's flesh, it might not work. But now, the situation was different. Longao had already smashed open dozens of wounds on the python's flesh. Blood was still spurting out. Longao did not need to break open the python's flesh again. All he needed to do was to bite into the python's flesh. Gulp, 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 gulp. Longao instinctively started sucking the python's blood, regardless of whether it was a good or bad thing. The swaying body of the ice-fire two-headed python finally came to a stop due to the excessive blood loss. Both of its heads fell to the ground with a heavy thud. The python's blood was already flowing rapidly. Now that Longao was sucking it, it was like adding oil to the fire. The ice-fire two-headed python's eyes were filled with unwillingness. But at this point, it was impossible for it to self-destruct even if it wanted to. Finally, the python's eyes slowly closed. Boo-hoo, boo-hoo. Realizing that the ice-fire two-headed python was dead, Longao was ready to stop sucking the python's blood. But at this moment, he realized in shock that no matter how hard he tried, he could not pull himself out of the bloody hole. What in the world was going on? Just as Longao was at a loss, Long Fu's figure suddenly appeared. "Long Fu, what should I do?" "Master, your luck is pretty good." "My luck is pretty good?" Hearing Long Fu's words, Longao was depressed. But at this moment, Long Fu said, "Master, because of the python's unwillingness before its death, it mutated." "Mutated?" "Master, you just have to keep sucking. Once you're done with the python's blood, I'll help you refine the blood gradually and strengthen your bloodline." Through Long Fu's explanation, Longao roughly understood what Long Fu meant. In other words, as long as he absorbed the python's blood, his bloodline would continue to strengthen. At the highest level, his bloodline would even be comparable to a dragon's. Since that was the case, Longao did not hesitate and immediately began to absorb it. After absorbing for a full hour, Longao was barely able to absorb 1/3 of the snake's blood. Unable to hold on any longer, Longao finally gave up. Longao burped and said helplessly, "Long Fu, I really can't absorb anymore." Long Fu nodded. Then, Long Chang and Long Ming appeared. The two little guys did not show any mercy. They lay on the bloody hole and began to crazily devour the blood. 2 hours later. "Master, you and the two little fellows should try not to use the blood. Later, I will borrow the power of the blood pool to help you refine the blood. Remember, do not use it. Otherwise, the consequences will be unimaginable." Seeing Long Fu's solemn words, Longao nodded. Of course, he was not stupid enough to use the blood despite knowing that it would be troublesome. Long Fu returned to the dragon seal space with the two little guys. Longao was about to continue moving forward when he suddenly froze in place. This was because he found that dozens of ice-fire two-headed pythons had suddenly appeared all around him. From all directions, pairs of cold eyes stared at him. Especially when they saw the huge corpse on the ground, dozens of ice-fire two-headed pythons suddenly moved. "Fuck!" After cursing fiercely, Longao did not dare to stay any longer. Although he had killed one ice-fire two-headed python before, dozens of ice-fire two-headed pythons attacked at the same time. Not to mention him, even a peak earthly emperor might not be able to withstand it. If he did not leave, he would die. Longao did not want to die here in vain, but the problem now was that he was surrounded by ice-fire two-headed pythons from all directions. No matter which direction he chose to leave, he would be attacked by the pythons. What should he do? At this critical moment, as long as he hesitated, he would be attacked by dozens of pythons. At that time, only death would await him. Just as Longao was about to choose to break out, a dragon's roar and a whistling sound rang out at the same time. Long Chang and Long Ming, who had just entered the dragon's seal space, suddenly appeared. One dragon and one tiger stood on the left and right sides of Longao. The dragon's roar and the tiger's roar resounded throughout the world. A man, a dragon, and a tiger. Longao was also very surprised. However, at this time, with the help of the two little guys, the chances of breaking out of the encirclement were indeed very high. The moment the dragon's roar rang out, the dozens of ice-fire two-headed pythons that were rushing over abruptly stopped. Each and every one of them looked at the black dragon flying in the air in horror. The ice-fire two-headed pythons were a branch of the dragon clan. Not to mention strength, Long Chang alone was enough to suppress dozens of ice-fire two-headed pythons in terms of chi power. If it were the ice-fire two-headed pythons outside, they would not be afraid of Long Chang's chi power. However, dozens of ice-fire two-headed pythons had lived in the Skeleton Mountain for many years and had been eroded by resentment for many years. They simply ignored the suppression of Long Chang's chi power. The dozens of ice-fire two-headed pythons only paused for a short while before continuing to rush forward. The chi power of dozens of pythons superimposed on each other like a thunder tribulation. Thunderbolts followed one after another, covering the sky and covering the earth. Without any hesitation, Longao took the two little guys and made the first move. The three figures did not attack separately. Instead, they chose to attack a certain direction. Only in this way could they possibly break out of the encirclement. Both sides were in the earthly emperor realm, but the dozens of ice-fire two-headed pythons had been eroded by resentment for many years. Their strength had changed. Otherwise, with Longao's strength, it would not have been so difficult to deal with the pythons. Because of this, Longao finally chose to attack a certain point. He had to admit that the combined power of Longao, Long Chang, and Long Ming was not as simple as 1 + 1 + 1 = 3. It was absolutely 1 + 1 + 1 = death. Dragon and tiger roars. Longao was in the middle, Long Chang was on the left, and Long Ming was on the right. The two sides fought in an instant. At this time, Longao suddenly heard Long Fu's voice in his mind. In a short second, Longao had already understood. Long Chang, Long Ming, fuse the Divine Dragon arm and Hell Tiger arm. Long Chang and Long Ming did not hesitate at all. They let out a resounding dragon and tiger roar and directly turned into two rays of light and entered Longao's arms. The right arm fused with Long Chang and the left arm fused with Long Ming, forming the so-called Divine Dragon arm and Hell Tiger arm. As soon as the fusion was completed, the two ice-fire two-headed pythons attacked. Things had come to this point. Longao knew very well that it was almost impossible to break out of the encirclement. With Hell Tiger in his left arm and Divine Dragon in his right arm, Longao suddenly smashed out with his fists. The power was earth-shattering. He was not afraid of any ice-fire two-headed pythons at all. It could be said that he smashed one after another until the sky fell and the earth cracked and the sun and moon cried. In the blink of an eye, Longao was surrounded by dozens of ice-fire two-headed pythons. Chapter 236. Dozens of ice-fire two-headed pythons besieged Longao, not giving Longao any chance to catch his breath. It had to be said that Longao, who had fused the power of Long Chang and Long Ming to form the Divine Dragon arm and Dark Tiger arm, had a qualitative change in strength. Both fists attacked left and right. As long as he grasped the right opportunity, he would use all his strength to smash down. In the beginning, Dozens of ice-fire two-headed pythons did not put Longao in their eyes at all, but as the battle continued to escalate, dozens of ice-fire two-headed pythons began to cooperate. Longao's arms continued to smash out. He discovered that his physical strength was gradually beginning to weaken. If this continued, even if he did not die from being besieged by the ice-fire two-headed pythons, he would probably die from exhaustion. Because of this, Longao knew very well that he could not continue like this, or he would die without a doubt. In the end, Longao had no choice but to use the dragon seal. According to Long Fu, the dragon seal was seriously injured and must be recuperated. Unless it was a last resort, it should not be used. Otherwise, the dragon seal would become more and more damaged, and it would be really difficult to repair it. But the current situation was particularly urgent. If he was not careful, he would fall into a state of eternal damnation. The power of the dragon seal was far above the divine dragon arm and dark tiger arm. But even so, Longao did not only use the power of the dragon seal, but also came up with an excellent way, which was to gather all the power of his arms on the dragon seal. Go to hell! While the dragon seal was smashed out, Longao did not stay idle. After all, dozens of ice-fire two-headed pythons were attacking at the same time. If he was a little slow, he would be attacked. The ice-fire two-headed python that was hit by the dragon seal had a bloody wound on its head. Although it was painful, it could not kill the python. Did he have to use the 9 needles of God? The divine dragon arm and dark tiger arm were useless. Even the dragon seal could not kill the python in a short time. Longao knew very well that the longer he delayed, the more disadvantageous it would be for him. Longao was very confident that as long as he used the 9 needles to seal the spirit, his strength would be able to break through to the peak of the Earth Emperor realm in the shortest time. At that time, killing these giant pythons would not be a problem. However, the problem was that he had already used the 9 needles of God 3 times in a row. If he was unlucky and suffered a backlash from the 9 needles of God, the consequences would be unimaginable. Before Longao could make a decision, he had to have a life-and-death battle with the dozens of pythons. He ruthlessly smashed a fist on the python's jaw, followed by an explosive kick on the other python's body. He used both his fists and legs, along with the dragon seal attack. But at this time, Longao felt an unparalleled power suddenly appear in his body, and it instantly flowed through his whole body. What was going on? Longao realized that the dragon seal had disappeared from his hand. At this moment, Long Fu's voice appeared in his mind. Master, I'll use the power of the dragon seal space to help you once. You must hurry, at most 1 minute. Sure enough. What a powerful dragon seal space. At this moment, Longao felt as if he had endless power that could not be released. 1 minute was more than enough. Longao did not choose to retreat this time, but chose to meet force with force. Longao's left arm, Dark Tiger's right arm, and Divine Dragon's right arm moved at the same time, punching the python's body. The sudden increase in strength caused the power of Longao's arms to soar instantly. Every time he punched, not only did he punch a bloody hole, but also a powerful force directly invaded the python's body and began to erode its soul. Anger, unwillingness. In just a few seconds, 6 of the dozens of pythons had been smashed to death. Seeing the change in the situation, the remaining 6 immediately scattered, ready to escape. At this moment, would Longao let the remaining pythons go so easily? Longao's figure moved quickly, moving with the wind. Wherever he passed, his fists would randomly smash. One punch contained hundreds of punches, directly smashing the ice-fire two-headed pythons to death. After a minute, the power completely retreated, and the 12 ice-fire two-headed pythons were all dealt with. Looking at the 12 corpses on the ground, Longao suddenly smiled. When he punched just now, Longao was already merciful and did not destroy the pythons' bodies. Otherwise, how could he refine them into corpse slaves? One must know that because he used too much strength, the pythons' bodies were filled with bloody holes. Even if he wanted to refine them into corpse slaves, it would be impossible. Although corpse slaves are only killing tools, they still have to pay attention to their image. Longao did not dare to have the slightest hesitation, and sent the 12 ice-fire two-headed pythons' bodies and souls into the dragon seal space. According to Long Fu, the blood pool in the dragon seal space can be used to refine two killing tools, corpse slaves and soul slaves. These two killing tools are completely different. Soul slaves are relatively stronger, but they can only exist in the dragon seal space. In other words, once a soul slave leaves the dragon seal space, it will be refined by the heavens and earth and returned to nature. However, corpse slaves are completely different. Even if their strength is slightly lower, they can leave the dragon seal space and exist alone. Therefore, after thinking about it, Longao decided to refine 12 corpse slaves. Just thinking about it made him excited. After all, the 12 ice-fire two-headed pythons are all earthly emperors. Once they are refined, they can be used by him. In other words, once they are refined, it is equivalent to having 12 earthly emperors as bodyguards. Participating in the Battle of the 9 Prefectures this time, with 12 earthly emperors by his side, at least his chances of survival would be higher. Inside the dragon seal space. Master, I forced myself to help you this time. Fortunately, I had the spiritual stones. Otherwise, I would have already fallen into a deep sleep. Fallen into a deep sleep? Hearing Long Fu's words, Longao was shocked. He didn't think that using the power of the dragon seal space would bring about such a huge trouble. Just as Long Fu said, it was all thanks to the spiritual stones. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. From now on, don't use the power of the dragon seal space. I will handle everything. Oh right, Long Fu, when can you refine these 12 ice-fire two-headed pythons into corpse slaves? To refine a corpse slave, it is necessary to refine a soul into the corpse slave. This way, the corpse slave can be controlled by Longao. Because of this, refining a corpse slave is much more troublesome than refining a soul slave. Long Fu calculated and said, Master, the 12 ice-fire two-headed pythons are all earthly emperors. If you want to refine them all into corpse slaves, it will take at least 10 days. 10 days isn't too long. Longao has already calculated. If this is the case, before the Battle of the 9 Prefectures officially begins, Long Fu will be able to refine the corpse slaves successfully. Master, the underworld tiger arm and the divine dragon arm that you just merged with weren't able to display their full power. Chapter 237. Nodding his head, Longao felt that something wasn't right about the hell tiger arm and dragon arm. Long Fu, if you have something to say, just say it. Master, according to the strength and mutation of the two little fellows, the hell tiger arm and dragon arm should be twice as powerful as they are now. Longao didn't say anything, but stood quietly and listened. Master, after this period of observation, I found that the reason why the hell tiger arm and dragon arm can't unleash their full power is because the two little fellows haven't received the inheritance. Long Fu, what do you mean? Inheritance? Longao couldn't understand what Long Fu was saying. Master, the two little fellows are mutated spiritual beasts. At first, I thought that the 9 Abyss earthly tiger was an ordinary spiritual beast, but I never thought that this little fellow isn't, but the emperor of the 9 Abyss earthly tiger. Hearing Long Fu's words, Longao was surprised, because he knew what the emperor of the 9 Abyss earthly tiger meant. Master, you don't know, but some powerful mutated spiritual beasts will pass down their strength and unique skills after death, but they will seal it in the minds of their descendants. When their descendants become stronger, they will naturally receive the inheritance. So that's how it is. Longao already understood the meaning behind Long Fu's words. In the end, the reason why the two little fellows could not unleash the power they should have was because the two little fellows did not accept the inheritance. Long Fu, is there a way for them to speed up the inheritance? No. Longao's heart skipped a beat. He knew that if Long Fu couldn't do it, then no one else could. Master, it's best to let nature take its course when it comes to inheritance. Nodding his head, Longao didn't continue to dwell on the inheritance of the two little fellows. After leaving the dragon seal space, Longao didn't stop. The battle with the giant python had wasted a lot of time. At this moment, Longao was very curious. There were more than 100 people on the Tianzhou ranking list. If they were to head to the Crimson Province and enter the Corpse Mountain, how many of them would be able to leave alive? Based on the rumors and his own personal experience, could it be that only 10 out of 100 people could leave? Longao left. The mountain of corpses was filled with resentment, and corpses could be seen everywhere. According to Dugabai's instructions, Longao did not wander around randomly. Instead, he kept moving forward. However, Longao eventually realized that he was lost. He couldn't even tell north from south because the sun couldn't be seen in the Corpse Mountain. The surroundings were almost the same. At this moment, Longao suddenly felt a terrifying force surging towards him. It was extremely powerful, and was not something a human could resist. What exactly happened? Curious, Longao walked in the direction of the aura suppression. The closer he got, the more he felt that the aura was terrifying. It even had the power to destroy the world. Longao abruptly stopped. Looking at the scene in the distance, he was completely dumbfounded. He stood there in a daze. Between the heavens and the earth, a chilling wind blew. Under the lingering black fog, it formed a huge black fog that seemed to be able to devour the heavens and the earth. Not to mention how shocking this scene was, just looking at it from afar made one feel like they were being devoured. Longao, who was standing in the same spot and staring at the heaven and earth wonder, seemed to have entered a certain state. No one disturbed him as he looked at it alone. At this moment, Longao's body suddenly emitted an additional aura. It was the same as the aura produced by the heavens and the earth in the distance. However, when the two were compared, it paled in comparison. They weren't on the same level. The aura of the heavens and the earth. Longao didn't know why he said those words. Immediately after, Longao looked at the heaven and earth wonder in the distance. His body also began to move, following the trajectory of the power of the heavens and the earth. An illusory figure suddenly appeared. Long Fu looked at Longao's body moving with the aura of the heavens and the earth and seemed to be a little surprised. He muttered to himself, "Master's talent is comparable to the heavens. When Master is reborn, it will be the day of soaring. When Master is reborn, it will be the day of soaring." Long Fu took a deep look. His face still didn't have the slightest expression. He turned into a ball of light and returned to the dragon seal space. Longao didn't know that Long Fu had appeared. At this moment, Longao had already entered a wonderful state. This feeling was very special, and it was also the first time that Longao had experienced it. Gradually, Longao's heart began to replicate the heaven and earth wonder in the distance in his heart. It slowly evolved, fused, formed, and repeated over and over again. According to the power of the heavens and the earth in his heart, Longao's footsteps also began to slowly walk. It was chaotic, and it was impossible to tell what he was walking. However, if one looked carefully, as Longao walked, the aura that evolved from his body seemed to fuse with Longao's. Not only that, Longao's eyes had already closed, and he began to walk into the distance. He completely ignored the devouring of the heavens and the earth, and ignored the suppression of the aura. Although Longao's aura was weak, it seemed to be able to fuse with the heavens and the earth. Step by step, he finally arrived at the heaven and earth wonder. If it was an ordinary martial artist, even a nothingness martial artist, once they entered the heaven and earth black fog, they would definitely be swallowed by the aura and die without a burial ground. Even Longao wouldn't be able to enter if he wasn't in the right state. He would be courting death. However, the situation now was different. The power of the heavens and the earth that Longao produced was the same as the power of the heavens and the earth produced by the heaven and earth black fog. Therefore, when Longao entered the heaven and earth black fog, he wasn't attacked, but he was suppressed by the aura. Even so, Longao still couldn't feel the power of the heavens and the earth in his heart. The power of the heavens and the earth in his heart constantly evolved and fused. Even Longao himself didn't know how many times he had done this. In any case, it was evolving over and over again. The power of the heavens and the earth. By borrowing the power of the heavens and the earth, I can destroy the heavens and the earth. Longao seemed to be muttering something. At this time, the heaven and earth black fog and the power of the heavens and the earth began to crazily surge towards Longao. If Longao was entangled by it, one could imagine what would happen to him. Even so, Longao still stood motionless. He didn't even look at it. The power of the heavens and the earth fused with the heaven and earth black fog. It was like a giant dragon with its mouth wide open, ready to swallow everything in the world, including Longao. Looking at the heaven and earth black fog swallowing him, Longao suddenly opened his eyes. There wasn't the slightest trace of fear on his face. He calmly said, "What is there to fear from the heavens and the earth? I will let you know what a tragedy is. The heavens and the earth mourn." After saying these words, Longao's body suddenly erupted with a powerful aura. It also fused with the surrounding aura, preparing to meet force with the black fog. Chapter 238. Heaven and Earth Sorrow. Since Longao got the mysterious dragon seal and left the Red Fire Town, this was the first time he created his own martial arts technique. Only with powerful martial arts techniques could a martial artist exert the greatest power, and the self-created martial arts technique was the most suitable martial arts technique for himself. But creating one's own martial arts technique was easier said than done. When Longao entered the Corpse Mountain this time, he accidentally saw the wonders of heaven and earth and immediately fell into an epiphany. He created his own martial arts technique with the help of the momentum of heaven and earth, which was the so-called heaven and earth sorrow. The meaning of heaven and earth sorrow was very simple. Once the martial arts technique was used, heaven and earth would be in a tragedy. But Longao was still a little arrogant. Even if he created his own martial arts technique, it was impossible to compete with heaven and earth. So when he collided with the black fog, he spat out blood and flew out directly. Without continuing to compete with heaven and earth, Longao turned and left quickly. In the blink of an eye, he had disappeared without a trace. Somewhere in the Corpse Mountain, sitting on a huge stone, Longao gasped for breath and endured the pain in his body. Not only was he not unhappy, but he was pleasantly surprised. Until now, Longao had not reacted, because he never thought that he could create his own martial arts technique under such circumstances. A martial arts technique that belonged to him and was really suitable for him. Of course, Longao had full confidence in creating his own martial arts technique. This time, he entered an epiphany with the help of the momentum of heaven and earth, and created his own martial arts technique, heaven and earth sorrow. He could even kill a martial artist at the peak of the Earth Emperor realm. As for whether it could fight against the Tao ancestor, Longao did not know at all without facing it. Heaven and earth sorrow. Longao smiled helplessly. He did not know why he had such a name, heaven and earth sorrow. Did it mean that once he used his martial arts technique, heaven and earth would be in a tragedy? If others knew, they would definitely say that he was arrogant. After resting for a while, Longao did not immediately continue his journey. Instead, he sat on the ground and began to cultivate. Fortunately, heaven and earth sorrow had integrated most of the momentum of heaven and earth. Otherwise, he would have been swallowed by heaven and earth. Now he felt scared thinking about it. 6 hours later. Longao knew very well that not every spirit beast on the Corpse Mountain was at the earthly Emperor realm. It was just that he was lucky enough to encounter more than a dozen ice-fire two-headed pythons at the earthly Emperor realm. In the following days, Longao did not encounter any more powerful spirit beasts. It took him a full 5 days to find a way out and leave the Mountain of Corpses. As soon as he stepped out of the Mountain of Corpses, Longao saw Dugubai and Xia Jun anxiously waiting for him. Seeing that the two of them were fine, Longao breathed a sigh of relief. Before Longao could say anything, Dugubai asked worriedly, "Brother Long, are you all right?" "I'm fine. It's good that everyone is fine. Brother Long, I just got the news that someone had found another way to the Tianzhou and Crimson Continent. We just didn't know about it. Fortunately, we are all fine this time. Otherwise, we would have been wrong." Hearing Dugubai's words, Longao was also very depressed. If that was the case, then the three of them would indeed be in a tragic situation. But no matter what, the three of them were safe, which was a blessing in disguise. "All right, we don't have much time left. Brother Dugu, Brother Long, let's go quickly." Dugubai and Longao nodded. The three of them did not hesitate and headed towards the Crimson Continent. Longao did not mention a word about what happened at the Corpse Mountain, as if it had never happened. The Crimson Continent, one of the 9 continents, was much stronger than the Tianzhou. The situation between the Crimson Continent and the Tianzhou was different. The Tianzhou was dominated by the 6 major sects, while the Crimson Continent was dominated by the 9 major clans. The 9 major clans of the Crimson Continent were Wan Clan, Hao Clan, Duanmu Clan, Long Clan, Miao Clan, Wei Clan, Zhou Clan, Fan Clan, and Yan Clan. The 9 great families were in the same situation as the 6 great sects of the Tianzhou. Normally, they would fight openly and covertly, wanting to eliminate each other. But before the 9 continents battle of the 9 continents, the 9 great families had chosen to temporarily put aside their grievances and unite against the outside world. The 9 continents battle of the 9 continents was very important to the 9 continents. Furthermore, the 9 people on the ranking list all wanted to test their strength and compete for a place among the younger generation of the Tianwu continent. This year's 9 continents battle of the 9 continents would be held in the Crimson Continent. After a discussion among the 9 great families, the 9 continents battle of the 9 continents would be held in the Crimson Sky World. The Crimson Sky World was known as the ancient battlefield. According to legend, more than 1,000 years ago, before the 9 continents of the Tianwu continent had been separated, all the forces were in a chaotic battle. Countless experts had fallen. The battlefield of experts was known as the ancient battlefield, and the Crimson Sky World was one of them. It was because of this that the disciples of the other 8 continents did not need to go anywhere after entering the Crimson Continent. They could just go to the Crimson Sky World and wait. The Tianwu continent was divided into 9 continents. The Sky Continent, Earth Continent, Sun Continent, Moon Continent, Sunset Continent, Cloud Continent, Crimson Continent, Illusion Continent, and Black Forest Continent. Every 10 years, the 9 continents would hold the 9 continents battle of the 9 continents. Those who participated in the battle had to be ranked on the ranking list of each continent. There were 9 ranking lists in the 9 continents, and each ranking list had 100 people. In this way, there were 900 people in the 9 ranking lists of the 9 continents. However, when all the people on the ranking lists of the 9 continents gathered, there were only about 700 people who could participate in the 9 continents battle of the 9 continents. The remaining 200 people did not appear. According to the agreement of the 9 continents, anyone who did not participate in the 9 continents battle of the 9 continents would be unconditionally removed from the ranking list. In other words, once a person on the ranking list did not participate in the 9 continents battle of the 9 continents, they would automatically be removed from the ranking list later, and others would start to chase after them. Outside the Crimson Sky World, the 9 continents were divided into 9 plates, and no one would invade another. Perhaps within each continent there was no room for conflict. But now, everyone remembered which continent they belonged to. No matter what would happen after entering the Crimson Sky World, they could not let others see them as a joke. Brother Long, Little June, I believe you guys already know about the 9 States Storm Battle. I won't say much about it. Every time the 9 States Storm Battle takes place, there will be countless casualties. Every time the 9 States Storm Battle takes place, there will be a great change in the 9 states storm rankings. Therefore, I only want to tell you one thing. No matter what happens, you must come out alive. It was better to be safe than sorry. If they entered the Crimson Sky world and got separated, they would have to take care of themselves. At that time, they would be besieged on all sides and could encounter danger at any time. No one could guarantee that they could come out alive. Longao and Xia Jun nodded firmly. Longao said, "We will definitely come out safely." Longao, you actually dared to participate in the Battle of the 9 States. Our Tianzhou's face has been completely thrown away by you. Huateng, who the F***ck do you think you are? Scram! Chapter 239. As a super figure on the Fengyan list, Huateng would certainly participate in this year's 9 States battle. Huateng sneered, his face full of contempt and ridicule. Longao, as everyone knows, the reason why you can be on the Fengyan list is because you use some unorthodox methods. If it's your true strength, even 10 of you won't be a match for Zhang Zhiheng. Whether I'm a match for Zhang Zhiheng or not, it's none of your business. Longao said coldly. But now, he had to focus on the overall situation. He couldn't let people from other states see him as a joke. Otherwise, Xia Jun would have already taken action. Ha ha ha, what does it have to do with me? Suddenly, Huateng laughed. In the originally quiet scene, Huateng's laughter was particularly ear-piercing. Who the hell is this? Reckless thing. Grandson, what are you shouting for? Go and die if you have the ability. Ignoring the curses coming from all around, Huateng suddenly said loudly, Brothers of the 9 States, I'll tell you one thing. Our Tianzhou has a trash who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. I swear now, if anyone can kill this person in the Scarlet Sky world, I'll give him this beast core of the spiritual beast of the Tao ancestor. The Void Beast core was equivalent to the full power of a Tao ancestor. One could imagine how valuable the beast core that Huateng suddenly took out was. Hearing Huateng's words, people began to talk about it. They all wanted to know how big the grudge between Huateng and the young man opposite him was. He couldn't even wait for the 9 States battle. But the great reward would attract brave men. A beast core of the spiritual beast of the Tao ancestor was very tempting. Huateng knew very well that although no one agreed with him, once they entered the Scarlet Sky world, there would definitely be people who couldn't resist the temptation and would choose to deal with Longao. Dugubai and Xia Jun's faces were gloomy to the extreme, as ugly as they could be. Holding back Dugubai and Xia Jun, who were about to explode, Longao said with a smile, Brother Dugu, Brother Xia, will you bite the dog back after being bitten by it? Xia Jun also said with a smile, Of course not. Only dogs can do this kind of thing, we can't do it. Longao and Dugubai laughed. Only Huateng's face turned gloomy. With a cold smile, Huateng said, Longao, you don't need to be arrogant here. When we enter the Scarlet Sky world later, I will let you know what pain is. Anytime. Looking at Huateng leaving, Xia Jun asked curiously, Brother Long, do you have a grudge with Huateng? I don't know. He's really King psycho. Brother Long, you don't have to pay attention to him. If he dares to talk nonsense, we'll join hands and kill him after we enter the Scarlet Sky world. Xia Jun was very confident. With the 3 of them working together, who could be their opponent? As for Huateng, not to mention the 3 of them working together, Xia Jun alone was enough to deal with Huateng. Longao smiled. From the beginning to the end, he didn't put Huateng in his eyes at all. It didn't matter if he didn't come. If he came, he would make sure that Huateng would never return. Brother Long, many of our brothers are here. Why don't I introduce them to you? Waving his hand, Longao said with a smile, Brother Dugu, Brother Xia, you don't have to worry about me. I want to be alone. Dugubai and Xia Jun looked at each other. The 2 of them didn't say anything and left one after another. In the top 100 of the Tianzhou ranking, 90 people came from the 6 major sections. On average, each sect had about 15 people. The Sound of Thunder sect had a slightly larger proportion of people on the ranking. Therefore, the Sound of Thunder sect alone had a total of 18 people on the ranking. It could be considered a large team. In any case, the Sound of Thunder sect was one of the most powerful sects among the 6 major sections. Its strength and heritage were obvious. Under such circumstances, who would be stupid enough to provoke the Sound of Thunder sect? Apart from the Sound of Thunder sect, the other 5 major sects, the Golden Sun sect, and the Blood Sea sect had all received a death order. No matter what happened, they had to kill Longao. Longao was well aware of this. He sat alone on the huge rock, ignoring the chattering crowd around him. Longao closed his eyes and no one knew what he was thinking. Ding dong. A loud bell rang. Everyone stood up and looked at the scarlet sky world in front of them. Everyone knew that the bell meant that the Battle of the 9 States had officially begun. Everyone had a tacit understanding. Starting from the Tianzhou, the 9 states entered the scarlet sky world one after another. Once they entered the scarlet sky world, everyone would receive a token with their own soul power. The rules of the Battle of the 9 States were simple. It was killing. No matter if it was an enemy or one's own people, as long as you could kill them and take their soul tokens, no one would care about it. In other words, in addition to killing people from other states, Longao could also kill people from the Tianzhou state and take their soul tokens. For example, he killed Huateng. According to the rules of the Battle of the 9 States, under normal circumstances, there would be a melee without integration. For example, the Tianzhou and the Scarlet State would gather everyone for a melee. Instead, everyone would spread out and kill each other one by one. Only in this way could they achieve the greatest development through experience. However, no one would care if everyone entered the Scarlet Sky world. Dugubai and Xia Jun were afraid that something would happen to Longao. They followed Longao into the Scarlet Sky world and kept an eye on the others, including the disciples of the Flame City. In the end, the Scarlet Sky world was nothing more than a separate place. It was called the Ancient Battlefield. There were many tombs of experts, but no one could get them. In the beginning, many people entered the Scarlet Sky world to look for the ancient tombs, hoping to get the inheritance of experts. However, very few people could get the inheritance. Over time, no one entered the Scarlet Sky world to look for the so-called ancient tombs. Big Brother Dugu, is this really the ancient battlefield? Nodding, Dugubai said. It should be. 1,000 years ago, before the 9 states were divided, the world was in chaos. Various forces fought for territory and set off a great war. There were countless casualties. It could be said that corpses were everywhere and blood flowed like rivers. Since then, the continent was divided into the 9 states. The Scarlet Sky world and other places were also called the Ancient Battlefield. After thinking for a while, Dugubai continued. According to the rumors, there were many experts fighting in the Scarlet Sky world. It was because of this that the Scarlet Sky world was called the Ancient Battlefield. However, one thing has always been a mystery. The tombs that should have existed in the Scarlet Sky world suddenly disappeared. No one could find them. Before Longao could speak, Huateng, who had been silent all this time, suddenly said, Big Brother Dugu, Brother Long, trouble is coming. Chapter 240. Hearing Xia Jun's voice, Longao and Dugubai turned to look. At this moment, Huateng walked over with a dozen people. Huateng snorted and said confidently, Dugubai, Xia Jun, Longao, you 3 better be careful. I won't let you leave here alive. Dugubai said with disdain. You. Ha ha ha, we'll see. Let's go. Huateng led the dozen people from the fire sect and quickly disappeared into the sea of people. Xia Jun seemed to be very puzzled and asked, Can anyone tell me if water has entered Huateng's brain? I really don't know what gave him such confidence. Dugubai waved his hand and said seriously, Little Jun, something's wrong. You and I both know Huateng's character. Although he's arrogant, he's not an idiot. Have you realized that Huateng has been targeting us in every way in this battle of the 9 states? Once Dugubai said this, Longao and Xia Jun both felt that something was wrong. Although Longao did not have much interaction with Xia Jun, he still had a good understanding of Huateng's character. Just as Dugubai had said, although this person was a bit arrogant, he was not an idiot. Longao really couldn't understand why Huateng kept finding trouble with him. Was it because he had rejected him before? Big brother Dugu, are you saying that Huateng is purposely looking for trouble? Then I don't understand. What good does this do for Huateng? Xia Jun really couldn't understand and continued. If the 3 of us work together, who on the Tianzhou ranking can beat us? I don't believe that Huateng's strength can beat us. Xia Jun was full of confidence. Not to mention the 3 of them working together, any one of them wouldn't be someone Huateng could fight against. Dugubai also couldn't understand and said, "This is indeed a little strange. Brother Long, little Jun, Huateng is purposely looking for trouble. You must be careful." Xiao Jun and Longao nodded. As the saying goes, one is not afraid of a direct confrontation, but one is afraid of being stabbed in the back. More than 700 people from the 9 states entered the Crimson Sky realm. They did not choose to kill each other right away. Instead, they moved in all directions tacitly. According to the rules of the Battle of the 9 States, no one was allowed to fight on the first day after entering the Crimson Sky realm. On the second day, everyone from the 9 states would fight and kill each other. Because of this, when the 3 of them entered the Scarlet Sky world, they were not worried about anything other than guarding against Huateng. In the Battle of the 9 States, Tianzhou was the weakest. After finding a secluded place, the 3 of them rested temporarily and prepared for tomorrow's battle. Big brother Dugu, the Battle of the 9 regions will officially begin tomorrow. I believe that everyone will be crazily killing each other at that time. Should we fight them head-on or break them one by one? Among the 3 of them, Longao was definitely the strongest. Although his cultivation level was not as high as Dugubai's, Longao was 100% confident. However, Longao respected this big brother Dugu very much. Therefore, he would always ask Dugubai about the Battle of the 9 States. Brother Long, there are countless geniuses in the 9 states. There are many powerful people on the 8 states ranking list. Moreover, there are more than 700 people in the Battle of the 9 states. If we choose to fight them head-on, it may not be a good thing. Break them one by one. Yes, break them one by one. As Xiao Jun said, if the 3 of us join forces, as long as we don't meet a heaven-defying character, we can definitely face all difficulties. Big brother Duga is right. We'll deal with whatever comes our way. I'd like to see who will be so blind as to provoke us. Longao had a general understanding of the 9 states ranking list. There were 9 ranking lists in the 9 states. Although the Tianzhou ranking list was the weakest, the strongest person on the other 8 ranking lists would not surpass the Tao ancestor. In other words, there were no void warriors among the 900 people on the 9 states ranking list. After receiving this news, Longao heaved a sigh of relief. Longao was very confident in his own strength, but he also knew his own limitations. With his current strength, it was impossible for him to be a match for a Nihility martial artist, even if he encountered a Nihility disaster martial artist. Brother Long, although there are countless deaths and injuries in every battle of the 9 states, I have to admit that the Battle of the 9 States is indeed an excellent experience for a warrior. This is because only by constantly experiencing life and death situations can one's strength continue to increase. Regarding this point, Longao also agreed very much. Not to mention others, if he had not experienced countless life and death situations, his strength would not have increased so quickly. In just a few months, he had grown from a trash in the Scarlet Fire Town to an earthly sovereign realm martial artist. With this achievement, Longao was full of confidence that he could look down on the Tianzhou state. Huateng, do you want to F*King die? Seeing the appearance of Huateng's group, Xia Jun's face instantly turned gloomy. The other party had provoked them again and again. This was simply unbearable. Longao and Dugubai's complexion didn't look too good either. It was just as Xia Jun had thought. Huateng was looking for trouble again and again. If they continued to endure, the other party would think that they were afraid. The three of you calm down. I came to find you this time mainly because someone asked me to. So I'm sorry, but the three of you must die. Moreover, you must die immediately. With just you? Xia Jun's face was full of contempt. Huateng had a total of 17 people. Other than Huateng, who was an earthly sovereign realm martial artist, the rest were all human kings. Even these shrimp soldiers and crab generals wanted to cause trouble. Xia Jun smiled contemptuously. Although he did not want to admit it, he was still very sure that Huateng must have been provoked. Otherwise, he would not have come to die in vain. Waving his hand, Dugubai stopped the furious Xia Jun and said, Huateng, our patience is limited. Seeing that you and I are both on the Tianzhou Fengyan list, I will not bicker with you now. Scram! Dugubai was very arrogant, but Huateng's group knew that he had the qualifications to be arrogant. He was the first on the Fengyan list and a peak Dao ancestor. It was equivalent to having half a foot in the Void Realm. Once he reached the Void Realm, Dugubai would be even more arrogant. However, Huateng did not put Dugubai in his eyes. Dugubai, who do you think you are? How dare you speak to my senior brother like that? Let me tell you, we're here this time to take your lives. Ha! Xia Jun sneered and stared at the person who had just spoken. This person was only ranked 36th on the Fengyan list. His status and strength could not be compared to them at all. Come out if you have the ability. Don't hide behind us and blabber. You're really a disgrace to our Tianzhou. Oh right, I almost forgot. Flame sect has no family discipline. No wonder they raised a group of uneducated beasts. Chapter 241. Xia Jun, you're courting death. Huateng stopped his junior brothers from getting angry. He sneered and said, Don't be angry. I'll let you know the difference between us. As he spoke, Huateng took out a small bottle and opened the cap. A ray of light suddenly shot out. Void aura. Hearing Dugubai's shout, Longao and Xia Jun realized what had happened. Void soul. It was hard for them to imagine how Huateng had obtained a void soul. Ha ha ha, Dugubai, I have to say that your senses are pretty good. That's right, this senior is a void realm expert. I'd like to see how you'll survive in the hands of a void realm expert. At this moment, Longao and the other two finally knew why Huateng was so arrogant this time. They thought that Huateng's brain was flooded with water. They didn't expect that Huateng had something to rely on. The three of them knew very well what a void soul represented. Huateng, I'd like to know why you want to deal with us. Dugubai's voice was extremely serious. Although the Blaze sect and the Sound of Thunder sect were like fire and water, they didn't dare to be so open. Could it be that the Blaze sect was so arrogant that they could dominate Tianzhou with their own strength? Ha ha ha, seeing that you're already dead, I'll tell you. This senior is from the Blood Sea sect. Blood Sea sect? He didn't continue asking because Longao and the other two already knew what had happened. It seemed that the Blood Sea sect wanted to use the Battle of the Nine States to eliminate them. Longao couldn't understand. Wasn't the Blood Sea sect afraid of provoking the Sound of Thunder sect? Moreover, since the Blood Sea sect had such a powerful soul, why would they use Huateng to deal with them? After thinking about it, Longao finally came to a conclusion. The Blood Sea sect didn't dare to provoke the Sound of Thunder sect. Therefore, they entered the Scarlet Sky world and let Huateng release his soul to deal with them. What a shameless Blood Sea sect. Thinking of this, Longao, Xia Jun, and Dugubai looked at each other. Without any hesitation, the three of them turned and left quickly. Although the Void Disaster Soul was not as strong as the original body, it was still a Void Disaster Soul. Even if the three of them worked together, they might not be able to defeat it. As the three of them flew away, Longao took out the god-slaying mirror from his chest and activated its inside. A strange power spread out in all directions, directly covering Huateng and his soul. Time reversed for 3 seconds. With the reversal of time, the speed of the nothingness soul slowed down. Longao and the other two's speed became relatively faster, but the nothingness soul was always above the transformation martial artists. Contempt was written all over the nihility soul's face. He suddenly released a powerful aura that suppressed everything. Besides the great difference in strength between a transformation martial artist and a nihility martial artist, the aura was also the most important factor. Under the suppression of his aura, Longao and the other two's advantage immediately disappeared. Since that was the case, why not fight? The three of them looked at each other and saw a trace of determination in each other's eyes. The three of them clearly knew that Huateng had come prepared this time. Even if the three of them could escape this time, what about the future? As the saying went, they could hide for a while, but they couldn't hide forever. It was because of this that Longao, Xiajun, and Dugubai didn't continue to dodge. Instead, they chose to take the initiative to attack. But at this time, Huateng suddenly laughed out loud, as if he had just seen the funniest joke in the world. His face was cold and filled with contempt. "You will all die today." As Huateng's voice fell, the nothingness soul once again released a powerful aura, wave after wave. The nothingness soul wasn't an idiot. If they fought in close combat, with the weakness of his soul, it would be very difficult for him to kill the three of them in a short period of time. However, Huateng and the nothingness soul still underestimated Longao. Linming punched out with both fists. He didn't even need to use the divine dragon arm or the dark tiger arm. Just the power of thunder tribulation alone was enough to cause the nothingness soul to feel dread and retreat step by step. The power of thunder tribulation was the nemesis of souls. Even a nihility martial artist was the same. They didn't dare approach it at all. The nothingness soul didn't even dare to counterattack. This was the power of thunder tribulation. "Longao, you're courting death." Seeing that Longao could actually use the power of thunder tribulation, Huateng didn't expect it. In a rage, he shot towards Longao, but the one who met him was Xiajun. "Uneducated beast, I'll take you on." Since Zhang Jihong's death, Xiajun's ranking on the ranking list had risen to 4th place. As for Huateng, his ranking had also risen to 5th place. In fact, Huateng had always been unconvinced. He wanted to find a chance to fight with Xiajun to obtain a higher ranking on the ranking list. Huateng wasn't an idiot. If he could kill the three of them this time, then his ranking would directly rise to 2nd place. If he could kill his senior brother Miaoqing, then wouldn't the 1st place on the Tianzhou ranking list belong to him? In the blink of an eye, Xiajun and Huateng were already engaged in a fierce battle. The two of them had similar strength, so it was impossible to determine the winner in a short period of time. Longao and Dugubai were using all their strength to deal with the nothingness soul. With the suppression of the power of thunder and lightning, the two of them joined forces and attacked from left and right. However, the nothingness soul was illusory. It was impossible to kill it in close combat. The only way was to disperse the origin of the soul or to directly use the power of thunder tribulation to destroy it. Longao knew very well that if it was a soul that had transformed, even if it was in the Tao ancestor realm, he would have full confidence in defeating it. However, the situation was different now. The other party was in the nihility realm. Therefore, the power of thunder tribulation that he possessed could only suppress it, but not destroy it. "Ha ha ha, so it's just a bluff. Today, I want to see if the 1st and 3rd place on the ranking list are trash." The nothingness soul laughed crazily. His laughter was filled with disdain and contempt. His entire soul turned into a stream of light and shot towards the two of them. The two of them knew very well that if they were to be entangled by the other party, then they would be doomed. Because of this, the two of them didn't choose to fight the other party head-on. Instead, they chose to keep moving. "Brother Long, you go and help Xiao Jun. I'll deal with this person. Brother Dugu, let me do it. You. Dugubai seemed to be very surprised because he knew Longao's strength the best. He was only a primary earth sovereign. Even if he possessed the power of thunder tribulation, it was impossible for him to kill a nothingness soul. However, at this moment, a destructive aura suddenly erupted from Longao's body. Sensing this aura, not only was Dugubai stunned, but the nothingness soul was also completely stunned. He shouted in surprise, "Impossible! This is impossible! How can you possess the aura of heaven and earth?" Chapter 242. Aura of Heaven and Earth. Dugubai didn't know what aura of heaven and earth was, but seeing the Nihility soul's shocked expression, Dugubai knew that the martial skill Longao was using was no small matter. "Since I created my own martial skill, you're the first person to enjoy it. I hope you're satisfied." Longao's voice was extremely cold. But when Dugubai heard that, he was extremely shocked. He didn't know what aura of heaven and earth was, but he knew what a self-created martial skill represented. It had to be known that the martial skills of the martial heaven continent had existed for tens of thousands of years, or even millions of years. As for who had passed them down, no one knew. But Dugubai knew one thing, and that was that those who could create their own martial skills were all heavenly geniuses. Xia Jun and Huiting, who were fighting, also stopped to look at Longao. They were also very shocked that Longao had created his own martial skill. They wanted to see how powerful it was. "You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. If you can create your own martial skill, I, Huiting, will write it backwards." Ignoring Huiting's ridicule, Longao's body suddenly emitted a powerful aura. It was the aura of heaven and earth that the Nihility soul had just spoken of. "Impossible! You actually have aura of heaven and earth. Could it be that you are?" Not giving the Nihility soul any chance to speak, Longao's voice sounded like it came from hell. "Heaven and earth mourn." Following that, Longao began to crazily revolve with his body as the center. At that moment, the surrounding spiritual chi crazily rushed toward Longao like a tornado. Heaven and earth mourn. Dugubai, Xiajun, and Huiting looked at Longao foolishly. Ignoring the power of this martial skill, just the name was domineering enough. The Nihility soul didn't dare to meet force with force because he knew that if his true body existed, he wouldn't have to worry about Longao. But the problem was that he was only a soul. He was most afraid of two kinds of power. One was tribulation lightning, and the other was aura of heaven and earth. The Nihility soul had never imagined that a mere earth sovereign could create aura of heaven and earth. It was simply unheard of. Aura of heaven and earth was like nirvana rebirth. Longao's body rotated and crazily absorbed the surrounding heaven and earth spirit chi, forming a huge tornado around him. Just as the nothingness's soul was about to escape, Longao's body also moved. His body moved, and a tornado moved. Moreover, a terrifying pressure of the world's aura enveloped the nothingness's soul. "Ah!" A blood-curdling scream rang out. Without even a chance to resist, the void soul was devoured. Huiting, who was watching the battle from the side, was completely dumbfounded when he saw the scene that had just happened. He swallowed his saliva fiercely and didn't dare to stay in the slightest. Taking advantage of the moment when the two people weren't paying attention, he quietly led everyone away. Dugubai and Xia Jun did not notice Huiting's departure. Seeing Longao reappear after the tornado disappeared, the two of them sighed. Erased the soul of nothingness? What kind of concept was that? The two of them clearly knew that with Longao's current strength, he was completely qualified to be ranked first on the wind cloud list. Unless a true Nihility realm cultivator came, Longao would be the #1 person under the Nihility realm. "Brother Long, you really killed the nothingness's soul?" Up until now, Dugubai and Xia Jun felt as if they were dreaming. Nihility realm cultivators were simply supreme existences in their hearts, even if they only existed in the form of a soul. If it wasn't for the aura of heaven and earth, I wouldn't have been able to kill this person. Brother Long, what is the aura of heaven and earth? I don't know. I just happened to see the wonder of heaven and earth and comprehended a martial skill from there. As for this martial skill, it hasn't been perfected yet. It was simply infuriating to compare oneself to others. It hadn't been perfected yet, and he already had such a martial skill. It was hard to imagine. If it was perfected, then wouldn't Longao's sorrow of heaven and earth be heaven-defying? Dugubai and Xia Jun didn't continue asking. As friends, the two of them clearly knew what to ask and what not to ask. Longao himself was not too surprised that he had successfully killed the nothingness soul. This was because he knew very well that the reason he was able to kill the nothingness soul this time was mainly because of the power of the thunder calamity, and the sorrow of heaven and earth that he had just created. If a true Nihility realm cultivator came, then it was still unknown whether he could withstand it. Longao didn't express his thoughts. Big Brother Dugu, Brother Xia, where are the people from the Golden Sun sect? Brother Long, this wind cloud battle of the 9 states is both dangerous and an opportunity for everyone. I have always believed that only by constantly tempering oneself and experiencing life and death situations can one become a top-notch cultivator. Therefore, I dismissed everyone this time and let them train themselves. Under the pressure of life and death, I believe that their cultivation will rise very quickly. So that's how it is. How could Longao not know what Dugubai meant? He was a living example. If it weren't for so many life and death experiences, how could he have become who he was now? Brother Long, Huateng didn't succeed in killing us this time. I believe that he will definitely not let this matter rest. Therefore, in this wind cloud battle of the 9 states, we must eliminate him completely. Longao wasn't worried about Huateng. His voice was grave as he said, I'm not worried about Huateng. I'm worried about the Blazing Sect and the Blood Sea Sect. If I'm not mistaken, the Blazing Sect and the Blood Sea Sect have already formed an alliance. Dugubai and Xia Jun both agreed with Longao's analysis. If the two sects hadn't formed an alliance, how could Huateng possess the nothingness's soul? Because of this, the three of them had ugly expressions. The three of them clearly knew what an alliance between the two sects meant. If it was just the Blazing Sect or the Blood Sea Sect, the Sound of Thunder Sect wouldn't be afraid at all. However, in an alliance, everything would be different. Brother Long, let's not worry about the Blood Sea Sect and the Blazing Sect for now. Right now, the most important thing is to deal with Huateng. The matter of you creating your own martial technique must not be leaked out. Longao seemed to be curious. What's wrong with creating my own martial technique? Of course, Dugubai knew what Longao was thinking. He said helplessly, Brother Long, you don't know. The 6 great sects will not allow heaven-defying people to appear. You are able to create your own martial technique and use the strength of an earthly sovereign to obliterate the nothingness's soul. This already proves your talent and potential. If nothing unexpected happens, once this matter spreads out, many people will not let you off. So that's how it is. In the end, the 6 great sects didn't want anyone to threaten their position. Just thinking about it made them feel that it was somewhat funny. The 6 great sects didn't need to talk about developing their strength. They would only be envious and jealous. Chapter 243. Longao didn't dare to agree. After all, being framed by others out of jealousy wasn't a good thing. Just as Dugubai had said, it was indeed not worth it to bring endless trouble to oneself for the sake of martial skills. Big Brother Dugu, Brother Long, since it's like this, let's immediately go find Huateng. Wait, the rules of the 9 states battle of the 9 states state that no one is allowed to fight today. So let's start tomorrow. Very unhappy, Xia Jun angrily said. If Huateng can break the rules, can't we? Dugubai smiled and said, just as Brother Long said, if you were bitten by a dog, would you bite back? Huateng broke the rules, so naturally, someone will take care of him. But we can't break the rules and ruin the sect's reputation. Xia Jun helplessly shrugged. Since things had already reached this point, even if he didn't want to, he could only choose to remain silent. After killing the void spirit, Longao didn't know what was wrong with him. He kept feeling upset and said, "Big brother Dugu, brother Xia, I want to walk alone." Although the two didn't know what happened to Longao, they still nodded and told him to be careful. Looking at Longao's departing figure, Xia Jun worriedly said, "Big brother Dugu, brother Long seems to be a bit off." Nodding his head, Dugu Bai obviously saw it. He deeply sighed and said, "Brother Long's burden far surpasses ours. We have the sect's protection and can cultivate in peace. But what about brother Long?" Xia Jun obviously knew about Longao's situation. Putting himself in their shoes, if Longao's situation was given to the two of them, would they still be able to have their current achievements? Longao walked alone. Because of the rules of the Nine States Battle of the Nine States, no one dared to take the initiative to attack Longao. Even the people of the Tianzhou were the same. He came to a very secluded place. Longao didn't have any expression on his face. He indifferently asked, "I want to know, where is Yuan?" At this time, a black-clothed old woman suddenly appeared in front of Longao. He couldn't see the old woman's face, only a pair of deep eyes. The old woman's body swayed with the wind, as if she could be blown away at any time. However, Longao did not dare to be the slightest bit careless. Think about it, a person who could enter the Scarlet Sky world and call out to him without making a sound, could he be an ordinary person? "I've always looked down on you, because in my eyes you've always been trash." Longao didn't say anything. He just stood there and listened quietly. "Because you're trash, I didn't plan to let Yuan follow you in the beginning. What about you now?" Longao was sure that the black-clothed granny in front of him was Yin's mysterious master. She was the master who wanted to take Yuan away but didn't appear in Red Fire Town because of something. Longao knew very well that if this person had insisted on taking Yuan away, he would not have been able to do anything. "I still can't agree." "Why?" A powerful aura suddenly erupted from Longao's body. It was the so-called chi power of heaven and earth. However, the powerful chi power of heaven and earth did not seem to suppress the black-clothed granny at all. Longao waved his hand. Before Longao could figure out what was going on, the aura of heaven and earth that he released earlier had already disappeared without a trace. Longao was startled. At this moment, Longao finally understood how frightening the strength of Yuan's master was. "Chi power of heaven and earth, you really surprised me. You're only in the earthly emperor realm, but you've already condensed the chi power of heaven and earth. You'll definitely be reborn in the future." Longao didn't want to listen to this at all. He asked coldly, "Where's Yuan?" "Longao, your talent and potential are good, but your current strength is not good enough for Yuan. I can tell you clearly that Yuan is cultivating in seclusion somewhere. Her cultivation has surpassed yours." It would be a lie to say that he wasn't surprised. Longao was very confident about his cultivation speed, but what about Yuan? She had already surpassed him. This in itself showed what kind of existence the black-clothed granny in front of him was. It could be described in 6 words, simply too terrifying. "Longao, I believe you can also sense my strength. Let's get straight to the point. If you want to get Yuan in the future, you only have one way to go, and that is to have more strength. Senior, I want to ask, what realm do I have to reach in order to get Yuan? Let's have a look at the World Emperor first." Plop. Hearing the black-clothed granny's words, Longao almost fell down. "Let's have a look at the World Emperor first. Do you think that the World Emperor is a cabbage on the street? You can have as many as you want." Suppressing the contempt in his heart, before Longao could respond, the black-clothed granny's figure had disappeared without a trace. "You still haven't told me, where is Yuan?" "Humph, you still don't have the qualifications to know." He couldn't sense any aura at all. Longao couldn't even see the direction in which she disappeared. This kind of strength was simply too terrifying. Longao was completely sure that Yu Yin's master was a genuine Nihility realm expert. Furthermore, his strength was above Supreme Being. Clenching his fists tightly, Longao had always felt guilty about Yu Yin. It was because of his carelessness that Yu Yin was taken away by her master. Although he knew that nothing would happen to Yu Yin, Longao was still worried. Yu Yin, where are you? In a cave somewhere in the Sky Martial continent. The entire cave was made of crystal. It was like an ice palace. Yu Yin was sitting on a huge crystal ball. She was concentrating on cultivating. Perhaps it was because of telepathy, Yu Yin suddenly opened her eyes. Looking at the distant scarlet flame town, her face was filled with longing. Brother Ao, are you calling for me? Unknowingly, Yu Yin had already started to cry. After the pain of separation for several months, Yu Yin could only turn this pain into cultivation. According to her master, as long as her cultivation reached a certain level, she could leave this place and look for Longao. For the love of her heart, Yu Yin cultivated day and night. With the right time, place and people, Yu Yin took advantage of everything. Her cultivation soared like a rocket, even surpassing Longao. Longao's cultivation soared quickly because of the tempering of life and death. Yu Yin's cultivation soared quickly because other than the cultivation environment her master gave her, it was also because of the love in her heart. If you don't leave me, I'll stay by your side in life and death. If you don't leave me, I'll stay by your side in life and death, Yu Yin softly muttered. Then she closed her eyes again and continued to cultivate. The sooner she broke through, the sooner she could leave this place. Chapter 244. Inside the Dragon Seal Space. Long Fu, I just used heaven and earth's sorrow. Why do I feel upset and even have a very strange feeling? Longao was certain that it wasn't a good thing. Could it be the backlash of heaven and earth's sorrow? Thinking about it, he felt that it wasn't very likely because heaven and earth's sorrow was a martial skill that he created himself. If even a self-created martial skill could cause a backlash, then this matter would really be troublesome. Master, the heaven and earth's aura that you condensed isn't a power that you should have right now, so if you want to forcefully use it, you will only suffer a backlash. As expected. Hearing Long Fu's words, Longao's face instantly became gloomy. The heaven and earth's sorrow that he created with great difficulty would actually cause a backlash. It was simply laughable. If it was an ordinary martial skill, then forget about it. But the power of heaven and earth's sorrow was something that Longao had personally seen and experienced. It could even devour nothingness and souls. If he couldn't use heaven and earth's sorrow in the future, not to mention heaven and earth's sorrow, at that time, it would be his own tragedy. Master, fortunately, heaven and earth's sorrow is a martial skill that you created yourself, so even if there's a backlash, it won't cause too much damage to you. It's just that every time you use this martial skill, you will feel tired. Not much effect? Longao let out a long sigh of relief. No matter what, being able to continue using heaven and earth's sorrow was always a good thing. But at this time, Long Fu said, Master, you can use this martial skill, but you absolutely can't use the heaven and earth's aura alone. Otherwise, once you're devoured by this aura, even I can't do anything about it. It's that serious? It's a dead end. Helplessly shrugging, since the consequences were so serious, Longao naturally wouldn't be stupid enough to cause trouble for himself. Long Fu, the person that just appeared, can you feel his strength? No, but I can clearly tell Master that the person just now is very strong, very strong. Longao wasn't surprised at all because he had already guessed that Yu Yin's master must be a super expert. Otherwise, it would be impossible for Yu Yin's strength to surpass his in such a short period of time. Without asking further, Longao left the Dragon Seal space and returned the way he came. Longao, I heard that you created a martial skill. Is that true? Seeing Miao Qing and Huateng suddenly blocking his way, Longao was not angry at all. His face was filled with disgust as he coldly said, Scram! Ha ha, who do you think you are? Longao, if you can defeat senior brother Miao Qing, I will kneel before you and call you grandfather 3 times. What are you shouting for? I'll call you grandpa 3 times. Say it again. What are you shouting? Grandpa, do you fucking understand? I said I'll call you grandpa. Just as he finished speaking, Huateng finally realized that something was wrong. His face instantly became gloomy and he said with an unsightly expression, You dare take advantage of me? Huateng, don't be wishful thinking here. I don't want to take advantage of you. Sigh, having a grandson like you is the most tragic thing in the world. As he spoke, Longao shook his head. His meaning was very simple. You're not good enough. You're disgracing your grandfather. Longao's ridicule and disregard made Huateng completely furious. If Miao Qing hadn't stopped him, with Huateng's violent temper, he would have definitely attacked. Miao Qing smiled and suddenly said, Don't think that just because you killed the nihility spirit, you're invincible. Longao, I now formally challenge you. Do you dare accept? Challenging him at this time? Under normal circumstances, Longao would definitely not refuse, but the situation now was completely different. Longao didn't want to deal with Miao Qing in the Scarlet Sky world. In any case, the Battle of the 9 Regions would begin tomorrow. If he killed 2 people now, wouldn't he be laughed at by the world? Longao chose to ignore the 2 and turn to leave, but at this time, Miao Qing stretched out his hand and stopped Longao. He said coldly, Longao, I originally thought that you were still a character, but I didn't expect that you're just a cowardly turtle. Senior brother, don't you know that Longao was used to being humiliated in the past? Let me think, from now on, you don't need to be called Longao, but Xiao. Longao was still not ready to pay attention to the 2. As he just said, if he was bitten by a dog, would he turn back and bite the dog? It was a very ridiculous thing. But Miao Qing obviously didn't want to let it go. He sneered and said, Longao, if you don't dare to accept my challenge, you have to admit that your parents are also turtles. Say it again. Parents were obviously Longao's weakness. Did he want to insult his parents? Longao's eyes gradually became cold. Before Huateng could speak, Longao said with a sneer, Huateng, do you believe that I can kill you in seconds? Even if Miao Qing is here, I can still do it. Do you want to try? Looking at Longao's cold eyes, Huateng didn't know why, but he felt as if he had fallen into an ice cave, and he shuddered. Huateng scolded himself fiercely in his heart, but in the end, he didn't dare to say anything more. With the previous example, he had just witnessed with his own eyes that Longao had obliterated the nihility soul. If Longao could really kill him in an instant, wouldn't he be a tragedy? Longao, if you don't want to shame your parents, I will officially challenge you now. Do you dare to accept? Miao Qing, I originally thought that since we are both on the Tianzhou billboard, we should fight against the enemy together and strive for a ranking in the Battle of the 9 States. But since you insist on sending yourself to death, I can only fulfill your wish. Miao Qing and Longao were ranked 2nd and 3rd respectively on the Wind Cloud leaderboard. This battle was not only a life and death battle, but also a battle of ranking on the Wind Cloud leaderboard. The 2 of them clearly knew that they could not relax in this battle. Otherwise, they would definitely die. Huateng was delighted. If both of them could die in battle, wouldn't he be able to reap the benefits? Thinking of this, Huateng's eyes gradually became ruthless. As long as the top 5 on the billboard were all dead, he would be ranked first. At that time, it would be like a carp leaping over the dragon's gate. At this moment, Huateng was extremely excited. He kept praying in his heart that Longao and Miao Qing's battle would end in mutual destruction. This was because Huateng knew that with his strength, no matter who he encountered, he wouldn't be able to defeat his opponent. One had to admit that Huateng was indeed extremely shameless. Just as Huateng was feeling extremely excited, Longao suddenly turned around and coldly looked at Huateng. He said, Huateng, I am officially challenging you now. Do you dare to accept? If you don't, I'm afraid your parents will be turtles. Chapter 245. Challenge me? Huiting seemed to have yet to react. Don't tell me you don't dare? Longao, are you King looking for trouble, or are you looking down on senior brother Miao Ching? He has already challenged you and you have accepted his challenge. Why are you challenging me now? Although Huiting spoke in such a righteous manner, he actually did not dare to accept the challenge. Even Nihility's spirit was no match for Miao Ching, let alone him. Only an idiot like Miao Ching would challenge Longao. Huiting had already prepared himself. If Miao Ching lost, he would immediately run away without saying a word. If Longao lost, he would take advantage of his weakness to deal with Longao directly. It could also be considered as cutting the weeds and eliminating the roots. Once both of them were injured, he would be able to reap the benefits by killing both of them and taking away Longao's treasures. Sai, the dignified young master of Flame Sect, actually doesn't dare to accept the challenge. I feel humiliated for your parents. If I were them, I would have bought a kilogram of tofu and killed myself at home. Being humiliated like this, Huiting's face instantly turned gloomy. Longao, if you can defeat senior brother, I will accept your challenge. Longao smiled contemptuously. He had seen shameless people before, but he had never seen such a shameless person. If he defeated Miao Cheng, would Huiting still dare to accept the challenge? Huiting was only an earthly sovereign, but Miao Cheng was a genuine Dao ancestor. The two of them were not on the same level. Not to mention Longao, even Miao Cheng felt that Huiting was shameless. However, due to Huiting's identity, he could not say anything. Huiting, you and Miao Cheng come together. Hearing Longao's words, both Huiting and Miao Cheng were stunned at first, then they immediately became furious. Contempt, this was simply contempt. If the two of them joined forces, even if they won, it would not be a glorious thing. Longao, you are courting death. Don't tell me you don't dare? Ha ha ha, Longao, I have to admit that you are truly arrogant. Sure, Huiting and I can join forces to challenge you. However, you must promise me that if we win, you must hand over the 2 treasures in your possession. 2 treasures? Could it be the God-sealing pearl and the God-punishing mirror? Even now, Longao still didn't know why news of him possessing the God-sealing pearl and God-slaying mirror had spread out. Longao knew very well that if this matter were to spread out, he would have endless troubles in the future. After all, these 2 treasures of his were too heaven-defying. The temptation was simply too great. Longao didn't continue to dwell on this matter. He knew that there was only one thing he needed to do now, and that was to deal with Miao Cheng and Huiting. Miao Cheng, you want nothing more than the God-sealing pearl and God-punishing mirror. I can promise you that as long as the 2 of you join forces and defeat me, I will give you 2 treasures. How about it? It's a deal. Huiting cursed in his heart. He simply didn't want to agree to this. After all, his situation was different from Miao Cheng's. There was an entire level of difference between them, like the difference between heaven and earth. But now that things had come to this point, if he didn't agree, then it would arouse Miao Cheng's suspicions. Huiting cursed in his heart once more. He walked to Miao Cheng's side and said, Longao, you are truly arrogant. Wait a moment, I will let you know the consequences of your arrogance. Nonsense. Waving his hand, Miao Cheng stopped the angry Huiting and coldly said, Let's begin. The 3 of them didn't speak. They looked at each other, each of them emitting a powerful aura. Soon, the 3 auras collided. Longao didn't use the aura of the world, nor did he use the sorrow of heaven and earth. This was because at some unknown time, a crowd had gathered around them, all of them looking at the 3 of them. It seemed that they were ready to watch a good show. In an instant, Longao, Huiting, and Miao Cheng all moved. The 3 of them wanted to end this battle as quickly as possible, so they attacked with everything they had. Huiting and Miaoqing attacked from the left and right. Longao chose the most direct method, which was to smash with his fists. The divine dragon in his right arm and the dark tiger in his left arm constantly blocked the two's attacks. In this way, the three of them had fought for more than 10 rounds in the blink of an eye. Longao knew that between Miaoqing and Huiting, Huiting was the weakest. Therefore, he had to deal with Huiting first, and then slowly deal with Miaoqing. The dark tiger's arm smashed towards Huiting fiercely. With fear in his heart, he didn't choose to meet Longao head-on. It seemed that he was exerting a lot of strength, but in fact, he was leading Longao to Miaoqing. Shameless. Cursing in his heart, Longao moved his fists together, one punch after another. The sky was filled with fist shadows, directly enveloping the two of them. Soul-subduing seal, dark burning seal, sky-burying seal. Longao used 3 seals in a row. Together with the divine dragon's arm and dark tiger's arm, the power was not as simple as 1 + 1 = 2. At this moment, Huiting was depressed to the extreme. He didn't know what was going on, but Longao kept attacking him, as if he was the enemy who killed his father. Although depressed, Huiting didn't dare to be the slightest bit careless. He kept receiving the other's fists. However, Longao's fists were too strong. Seizing this rare opportunity, Longao ruthlessly smashed his fist out. Huiting couldn't dodge in time and could only choose to meet force with force. He also swung his right arm and smashed it out. When the two fists collided, a cracking sound was heard. Following that, Huiting screamed as Longao's fist directly smashed him away. What kind of joke was this? Longao's divine dragon's arm had fused with all of Long Chang's strength. This fist had the weight of 10,000 jin. If Huiting hadn't blocked it in time, this fist alone would have been enough to take his life. Longao didn't hesitate and followed up with another attack. The divine dragon's arm and dark tiger's arm ruthlessly smashed out again. At this moment, Miaoqing's figure arrived. He didn't continue to chase after Huiting. Longao freed himself to fight with Miaoqing. Huiting, who was sent flying by the fist, climbed up from the ground with difficulty. His face was filled with fear. One had to know that he was also a genuine earthly sovereign. If he hadn't experienced it himself, he wouldn't have believed it even if he was beaten to death. Longao's strength and situation had already exceeded his scope of understanding. Huiting didn't dare to continue fighting because he didn't want to die. Moreover, he didn't want to be smashed to death. Seeing Huiting sent flying by Longao's fist, everyone was extremely shocked. Especially the people of Tianzhou. They understood Longao better. Fist after fist, constantly changing. Longao didn't use any other martial skills because he was completely confident that just relying on the divine dragon's arm and dark tiger's arm would be enough to defeat his opponent. At this moment, Miaoqing was extremely depressed and was forced to retreat step by step. Chapter 246. In the eyes of outsiders, the battle between Longao and Miaoqing was a huge disparity. Miaoqing was a genuine peak Tao ancestor, while Longao was only a beginner Earth Emperor. Could a beginner Earth Emperor defeat a peak Tao ancestor? As everyone knew, the gap between an Earth Emperor and a Tao ancestor was huge. They were not on the same level at all. However, seeing Longao closing in on Miaoqing and forcing him to retreat with punches, everyone could not react in time. Longao, I'll let you have a taste of my flame sex raging flames burning the sky. Raging flames burning the sky was one of the most powerful martial techniques of flame sect. When Miaoqing and Zhang Jihong were both Earth Emperors, Miaoqing defeated Zhang Jihong with raging flames burning the sky and ranked second on the wind cloud list. One could imagine how powerful flame sex raging flames burning the sky was. Miaoqing borrowed the powerful spiritual qi of heaven and earth, and used some unknown method to turn the spiritual qi of heaven and earth into flames. In other words, at this moment, Miao Cheng looked like a burning fire god from afar. He was very powerful and strange. Dugubai and Xia Jun rushed over after hearing the news. When they saw Longao and Miao Cheng fighting to the death, their faces turned ugly. Even though they were very worried, they still did not help. In a battle of life and death between cultivators, unless one was shameless or did not care about the morality of cultivators, most people would not interfere in a battle of life and death between cultivators. This was the spirit of martial artists. Brother Dugu, is Brother Long a match for Miao Cheng? Miao Cheng will definitely lose. Without thinking, Dugubai had already come to a conclusion. How could a person who could destroy the nothingness soul be defeated by a mere Tao ancestor? Raging flames burning the sky. Miao Cheng's entire body seemed to be burning. At this moment, Miao Cheng was like a volcano. No matter who touched him, they would immediately be incinerated by the flames. The lighter ones would be burned, the heavier ones would be burned to death. Longao certainly knew that this martial technique of flame sect was very powerful. He would not choose to fight Miao Cheng head-on. Similarly, he did not continue to use Dark Tiger Arm and Divine Dragon Arm. With countless people watching, Longao naturally wouldn't use the God-slaying mirror or God-sealing pearl. In the end, Longao decided to use the blood-sucking manic blade and slashed at Miao Cheng. The 8 styles of blood drinking. The first style was Yellow Spring's 9 strikes. The second style was Heart-devouring ice. The third style was Raging Flame Sea. The fourth style was World-extinguishing saber light. The fifth style was Myriad Bones devouring soul. With Longao's current strength, he was unable to cultivate the last 3 styles. But even the first 5 moves were not to be underestimated. Fight fire with fire. Miao Cheng used the flame sex martial skill, Raging Flames incinerate the heavens, while Longao directly chose the third move of the 8 styles of drinking blood, Raging Sea of Flames. The 2 moves were different. The Sea of Flames that Longao used was to pour all his power into the blood-sucking blade. With the help of the blood-sucking blade, as slaughter, he condensed the so-called flaming blade light. When the blade light arrived, Miao Cheng didn't dodge at all. He used his body to resist the blade light. Under normal circumstances, if Miao Cheng didn't dodge, he would be cut in half by the blade light. But the current situation was completely different. With the help of Raging Flames incinerate the heavens, Miao Cheng's physical defense doubled in an instant. He could even resist the blade light. One had to admit that Miao Cheng was indeed a genius. Because the flame sex Raging Flames incinerate the heavens wasn't so big. After Miao Cheng's careful processing, its power had increased by several times. The blade light didn't successfully kill his opponent. Longao was also stunned. Did he have to use Sorrow of Heaven and Earth? Longao was full of confidence. Once he used his self-created martial skill, Sorrow of Heaven and Earth, he could completely suppress the Raging Flames, incinerate the heavens, and kill Miao Cheng. At this moment, Longao was full of confidence. If he used Sorrow of Heaven and Earth, he could defeat anyone under the nothingness realm. However, as long as he didn't use Sorrow of Heaven and Earth, it wouldn't be easy to kill a high-level Tao ancestor or even a peak Tao ancestor. This was the gap between the realms. Because of this, Longao knew very well that unless his cultivation officially broke through the Tao ancestor realm, he could never hit his target and become the real number 1 person under the nothingness realm. Tao ancestor realm. Retreating 10 steps, just when everyone was wondering what Longao wanted to do, 12 huge pythons suddenly appeared beside Longao. Each python had 2 heads, a cyan blue head and a crimson red head. Ice Fire 2-headed python? Everyone was gobsmacked when they saw the appearance of 12 Ice Fire 2-headed pythons at Longao's side. If it was just one Ice Fire 2-headed python of Earth Emperor realm, then it would be fine. However, 12 Ice Fire 2-headed pythons had appeared together. Not to mention others, even Miao Cheng was extremely shocked. However, things had come to this point. Even if he didn't want to fight, he had to fight. In fact, Miaoqing didn't take the 12 ice-fire two-headed pythons seriously at all. In Miaoqing's opinion, even if the 12 earthly royal realm spiritual beasts joined forces, they would still be no match for him. Was Longao out of his mind? At this moment, Longao directly issued an order. The 12 corpse pythons all moved out and shot towards Miaoqing. The bodies of the 12 corpse pythons were incomparably huge. If they were connected together, they were like moving hills. The scene was very shocking. Seeing the 12 ice-fire two-headed pythons shooting towards Miaoqing, everyone was extremely shocked. Because no one knew where Longao got these earthly royal realm spiritual beasts, and why they were so obedient. 12 ice-fire two-headed pythons at the earthly royal realm were equivalent to 12 earthly royal realm martial artists. Once they joined forces, they could almost wipe out anyone below the Tao ancestor realm. Miaoqing didn't dodge at all. His strong confidence made Miaoqing rush out like an arrow. Before he arrived, the powerful flame force had already pressed down fiercely. It covered the sky and the earth like the rolling water of the Yangtze River. After all, a Tao ancestor was a Tao ancestor. Miaoqing could almost slaughter the 12 ice-fire two-headed pythons with the raging flames burning the sky. However, after a few rounds, Miaoqing was shocked to find that no matter how he dealt with the 12 giant pythons, they seemed to be unkillable. Unkillable? Miaoqing couldn't figure out why he couldn't kill the 12 giant pythons. Miaoqing didn't believe that the 12 giant pythons were unkillable. He rushed out again. However, at this moment, Miaoqing was drowned by the 12 ice-fire two-headed pythons. With a roar, Miaoqing fiercely avoided the siege of the 12 ice-fire two-headed pythons and shot towards Longao. As the saying goes, shoot the horse before shooting the man, capture the leader before capturing the bandits. Miaoqing was not a fool. He knew very well that as long as he could kill Longao, the 12 ice-fire two-headed pythons would not be a problem. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.